Just play the game. If you're the first one that gets all 3 of yours turned in, I'll show you my tits.
Whoa!
That is the most powerful image ever put on film.
And it is one of the most magical things I've ever seen or heard. What's the opposite of hetero? Wait, no.
Homo.
How does that work, though? Wait, so how can you be my hetero life mate and then I have a wife?
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
Because it doesn't work.
Shit. Welcome to 2018. It's been a minute.
Geez, isn't that fucking crazy? Ian, it's already like day 10 into 2018.
Oh, yeah.
Which is mind-boggling, to say the least. So, yeah, I can't believe how it's already 10 days in. Like I'm watching all the other sites and blogs and vlogs and everything, like they're throwing all their 2017 stuff up, and I'm like, holy shit, we got to get going. Like, our shit's not up yet. So
I know. But it will be soon, though.
Yeah, no, it'll be fine, and it'll be great because, that's just our style. That's just what we do. But I say let's just without any fanfare, let's just get our beers up. And,
fuck yeah.
Get those going. So
I actually have one from our beer exchange at from the Star Wars excursion.
The 10-ton.
Yeah, the 10-ton oatmeal stout, which is one of the beers I would want. You would toast me, but I'd be like, oh, I can't get that.
Yeah,
but I did get it because we were all together. Quite a month ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Watching the Star Wars.
Such a great time.
So for this Dayton, Ohio beer, I'm drinking it. I'm going to be drinking it in this Minnesota cup in Northfield, Minnesota, where I'm talking to you from today. Dave talking to you from Northfield, Minnesota.
And Palmer from Dayton, Ohio, who gave Dave that beer he's about to drink. That's from Warped Wing Brewery, which is this brewery that showed up literally overnight. There was no Warped Wing. And then it felt like the next day it was everywhere. They had, and their brewery opened downtown that you could go get like fresh beer. But also overnight it felt like there was just Warped Wing. There was like 3 different kinds that they had. There was like Ermel's Flying Rye, that 10-ton oatmeal stout, and Hop Bomb, I think is what it's like a really hoppy IPA. And I think that's what the name of it is. But those were like the 3 that you could get in the can. But that, again, it like showed up overnight. But that was my favorite. That's still like a good standby. That's not my favorite beer that they make, but that is a good one.
I'm excited to drink it. I saved a handful of what I'm thinking of as long, short drink beers, or beers that came from that beer exchange in
Iowa.
What do you have tonight?
Just a good old standby. The
award winner. Yes.
You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. Fuck that shit, Pabst. Well, not fuck Pabst, but
yeah. No. Fuck
Frank,
that shit. Yeah.
Frank Booth won't have it. All right, did you crack?
Okay. Nope. On 3.
3. Ooh, yeah, that was satisfying.
Yeah.
Ooh, this looks pretty.
Yeah, it's such a good. And it's like one of those like really caramely heads, which is like.
That's what she said?
That's what she said.
I don't know if that works.
It just has head in there.
Cheers.
Cheers, sir.
Oh, yeah. That'll do. That's great. So we've been keeping a regular, publication schedule, and I think I act like I don't know, to keep up with trying to be current. We put the Star Wars one up before the last one that we published, which the one just prior to this, number 37.
37
in a row. Hey, back here. Which we saved.
Dick on your way to the parking lot.
Yes, we saved that because of the Kevin Smith tie-in, and Yeah, and that was recorded shortly just after Thanksgiving. So as it's turned out,
we released them out of order than how we recorded them.
Yeah, which we don't often do, but seemed worthwhile in this case.
But kudos to you for like getting the turnaround on the the Last Jedi stuff out so fast so that it could happen like that.
Oh, no problem. It was a blast. That was a lot of fun to put together. And so that's the one. If you listen to the podcast as a podcast, which most of our audience does, I'd encourage you to check out at least the first few minutes of the Star Wars episode, the 36.5 on YouTube, just because there's a lot of visual extra stuff there.
And so I'm behind in listening, so I'm not up to that yet. But I have started watching or listening to the podcast from YouTube just for the video highlights at the beginning. So I would suggest I have been converted. I listened on Stitcher to the podcast and have since been, under Dave's suggestion, like moved over to the watching them on YouTube because the beginning section where you would normally hear just the highlights from the episode, he has left in the video of those, so you see them happening in real time because we pull the audio from these live YouTube sessions right now. So like what we're doing right now, ultimately the audio from this will be stripped out and chopped up and will become the podcast. And I wasn't able to early on, and every once in a while there's an issue that comes up that prohibits it. But for the most part, the video is, it's the same. So it has like a little screen for the King Corner and a screen for Shit the Bride Says and Dave's Digs, all of those that we've done in the last like handful of episodes. I don't think I've done like a Palmer's Pleasure or a Learning from the Internet just yet. But right now those are static intros on the video. But like, they're identical. Whereas it used to be when we do live sessions, the live videos that you could watch on YouTube that do have our faces interchanging and cutting with our guests or what have you would also have a lot of extra stuff, including like bathroom breaks and whatnot. But yeah, so if ever, we're talking about something that you'd like to see these days. And actually today I have tons of visual aids for some of what I'm going to talk about. You'll be able to, if you're not watching on YouTube, you could always go to YouTube later if you want to see some stuff like that. Anyhow, fuck all that. We haven't really talked for like, I know, dude. Like this in almost a month, I guess. Well, so we did Des Moines, and that was like our last real hurrah before the holidays hit, and then the holidays hit, and then I feel like we were in like this post-holiday slump because we were like hit with that really, really cold. Did you guys get hit with a really bad cold snap?
It was very cold,
which
minus
yours
whatever.
Yours was probably way worse than ours even was, but it stayed right around zero the whole time for like a week and a half. And now it's starting to warm up where it's into the like high 30s, close to 40. But Friday we're supposed to get like double snow and ice storm coming through. That's going to pretty much wipe us out for the weekend, which luckily it's a 3-day weekend, which is going to be great.
Oh, yeah. I have that too. Do you have a 3-day?
Yep.
That's cool.
And then we have President's Day in February, and then there's like a drought of days off until Memorial Day. Maybe we get something for Easter. Yeah. We might get something for Easter. I don't know. But
that's good. Actually, I think as we're scheduled, this will go up, and we're talking about this, going into that weekend, and I think this will go up midnight on that Monday. Oh, okay. Unless something happens with the edit, so we're pretty current for the first time in a while, other than the Star Wars.
Well, and I definitely think this I perceive that the workflow is much simpler with us doing the episodes this way.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, there's a little bit of a trade-off in quality, of course, but for the ease that we're able to like churn them out and stuff and focus on the conversation rather than producing each one like it's an album or something that's 4 hours long.
But I definitely think though too the quality trade-off is not as noticeable to the average ear. You and Moto are a little bit audiophiles to the extreme. So, and that's what I always say. If it's passable for them, then it's good. It's going to be great, to everyone else. So, I don't think it's as noticeable as you think it is.
That's good.
So, yeah.
But so, for me at least, after I saw you that weekend, we saw Star Wars together, then like that whirlwind trip that everyone can relive with us in episode 36.5. The following week, I came back to Ohio to the bride and I, both of our families are there. Excuse me. And then we visited them and stuff. But I also had another kind of excursion where I was celebrating something creative with friends. That documentary that I talked about at some point in the last few episodes, NJ's and the Jeff, which was two guys that played with me in a band and toured with me a couple years ago. It was a band that they had in 2007 and 8 for like 18 months or so. This rock trio that
was like all that, like you kept seeing this camera and you asked for that footage, right? Like
exactly.
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got the footage eventually, and the trio, the rock trio or whatever, they have an EP that we put up for free on the Dreamin' Out Loud Bandcamp site, dreamingoutloudrecords.bandcamp.com. Bunch of free music from Cabin Kids and these guys. These guys are kind of honorary Dreaming Out Loud artists, to put it in a funny way, because the byline of that whole thing was like a group of friends raised in Northeast Ohio or something like that, and anyway, so I adopted them because they've played such a pivotal
I think that
role
worked.
in
Well,
my
I mean,
music.
it's just like Long Walk Short Drink. It's it's a blanket that anyone can wrap themselves in. So
yes, you do have to, not jump through some hoops, but fall into some certain alliance, I guess, with us Riptides. But anyway, so and also actually the drummer was so excited about it that he put it up on iTunes and all of those kind of streaming service, Spotify. So if you're curious, search NJ's and the Jeff. That's the letter N, the letter J, S as in plural, NJ's plural, and the Jeff. And their self-titled EP. It turned 10 and that 10 years old, so we did that. But as I was preparing and
we'll probably tweet out a link as well. Which you can follow us at LWSD Pod on Twitter. Yes. You can also email us if you need the link at lwsdpod@gmail.com. Subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, all those good services. YouTube recommended. I really feel like we're going to migrate towards YouTube this year.
I could see that. Yeah. It's very tempting for me. I mean, that's because my stock and trade is making movies and videos. So,
like us building like a little like we each build a little studio where we are that looks like we're in the same studio, but we're not. Like, wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
We like to just do a talk show where we just are talking into microphones.
I like it. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's something to think about. That just came to me that thinking cool. Like that. Yeah. But I mean, I just feel like we definitely are this like picking up the pace of slowly migrating towards using YouTube for a lot of things. And it just that's what when I sent that text a while ago where I was like, is it a missed opportunity that we're not just doing a YouTube show? I mean, I know like what we're doing is awesome. Maybe missed opportunity wasn't the right like words, but like I just felt like we're evolving towards this YouTube presence. So we'll see how that goes.
We're definitely putting stuff on YouTube that you can't just listen to or see on the show as well. For whether it's the videos that we mention or watch together, or like unboxing videos like I did last year, or videos that we made or like our group of friends made that aren't otherwise distributed to reference. You can find it all there or on the Twitter. I do find myself as a very avid podcast listener that I often don't make that leap to YouTube for watching or listening. Right. I don't know why that is. I'll do it sometimes, but there's something about that. I think if you had YouTube Red, that probably makes a difference, where you can hit that button on your phone and have it, like, the image go away, but you can still hear it. Something about the oral nature of podcasts is like even more intimate somehow than videos can be. Anyway, I'm all about it though.
It has its own community of viewers. There are people that somehow fit that service into their lives, where where they get their media from.
Well, and you know that very well. I mean, that's one of your primary sources of entertainment, right?
When we get to talking about our top 10s of 2017, I know there's at least 2 entries on my top 10 list are YouTube channels. So,
outstanding. So I was going on and on about this NJ's thing, long walk for a short drink setup. That was, in preparing the digital liner notes for that, I had access to these 1,000-some pictures from this tour that they took in early 2008. And in so many of the pictures, my friend Brian Yost, the drummer, was holding this Handycam video camcorder. And so that's what we were talking about. Eventually, I got those tapes, which turned out he had never looked at. None of and they'd just been sitting at his parents' house in Ohio for 10 years.
I think there's so many people can relate to that. I do that
having shot the stuff and never watched it.
Yes, I do that shit all the time. Like the original WPLMR, like the podcast one that I did. Once I did my edit, that was the last time I listened to it. Like after I put it up.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I never listened to it again,
But this is like shooting or like recording it and then never doing anything with it. Yeah. That's a little different because their main focus, I'm sure at the time, was conducting the tour and playing the shows.
Sure.
But there's these 5 tapes that he said he had. And so I got them and I thought, I've made so many documentaries and stuff and made use of footage about my friends and our creative endeavors that it would be fun for me to have that visual component to this 10th anniversary EP of theirs that I was working on. So I eventually edited down the 5 1-hour tapes into a 2-hour tour video diary or something like that, which I had such a blast doing because I think I mentioned on the show before that Handycam thing. And when people used to record on 1-hour tapes, there was a different dynamic in recording videos than we would have on our phone now, which we might record like 30 to 90 seconds of something.
Right.
People would record for extended periods of time. They would kind of tell some theoretical audience what was going on, which my friend did throughout those videos, even though he never ever watched them. And so anyway, so I put them together into this 2-hour thing, and I was just going to do it. I was going to give them DVDs when I saw them at the holiday, because since the tour, we'd get together once a year, because Yost lives in New York, but he has family in Northeast Ohio. So we kind of converge, have like one meal together or something like that. So I was going to give them DVDs of this when that happened, and suddenly so NJ's and the Jeff stands for non-Jeffs and the Jeff. So there's 2 guys in the band that are not Jeff. And the Jeff, as we like to call him, he reached out in text. He's like, what if we rented a theater? I was like, oh geez, and I was thinking like of the cost of it and all that. And so I just thought like, he's just drunk and excited or something and it'll pass. But to make a long story short, they ultimately did rent like a 19-seat screening room in a hotel. Actually, do you remember the venue in Akron, the North Side? You were often there when I would play and maybe even hopped on stage there with me. It was next to Luigi's Pizza.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's no longer the North Side, but it's the sort of hotel or like condo thing. It was condos at the time. Now it's a hotel right across a short street. So we showed up there, and the Jeff had invited just a handful of his buddies and his brother-in-law, and it was like recliner seats. Yost had downloaded the files that I sent them. None of them had watched them. Like Yost had previewed one of the cut scenes just to make sure it worked, but they were committed to just seeing it for the first time in this quasi-public way. And so that was like and then I got to that kind of late because Moto and I were running around. He was driving me around so that I could film music venue exteriors for another documentary I'm working on that I could only film them in Ohio and only had this one night. So like all that's to say, like in this 2-week period, I had these 2 very fun sort of gatherings of creative groups of people
so
in my
productive.
life. I felt like it, yeah.
And
it was
it's
like
so
a whirlwind.
inspiring.
Oh, it can be. And what was great about both of these instances is I tend to spearhead stuff.
Hey, Twinkie's watching. Hey.
Hi, Twinkie.
Buddy.
Happy
2018.
We're going to get to our first Twinkies take here, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Once I stop babbling on about this. But anyway, it was really fun. But I realized why, in some ways, it was so exciting is that I so often, over the course of my life, have made things that have featured friends. But both of these outings or gatherings of friends were really spearheaded by the friends, not necessarily myself. So that was all really very fun. And a long walk I'm going to take a short drink here. I've been working on some other stuff since then that is a bit of a surprise for someone, so I don't want to talk about it, which that's probably for the best. So what have you been up to since I saw you in Des Moines?
Well, let's see here. So the holidays, we traveled to Ash's dad's. So we did Cookie Weekend before Des Moines. So yeah, so we didn't go up to Northeast Ohio at all for the holidays. We went out to Pittsburgh for Ash's family, did that for a couple nights. That was early on in our break. We had we did kind of like a staycation over winter break where both of us had some time off. We like both had the week off in between Christmas and New Year's. So we just kind of like stayed in our PJs and like ate good food and watched movies and went to the movies. Like we went to Star Wars twice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was fantastic. And then we have come back here. We got to do Christmas like here at on our own. We were going to go to the person who I moved when I first moved down here, who I lived with. Their family was going to do Christmas dinner, and we found out like right leading up to it. I don't think they do this on purpose. It always seems to time out this way where I find out from somebody else. Like my sister let me know like, oh, what are you guys going to do for Christmas? And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're going to go over to their house. And she's like, oh, well, I just saw on Facebook that their kids are all sick, like throw up sick. And I'm like, what? And they don't tell us that. So then until we get over there, and they're like, yeah, like everybody's been throwing up. And so then we get like, so I call them and I'm like, is this going on because we're taking time off in between Christmas and New Year's? We have that week off. I don't want to spend it like throwing up and shitting myself. and she's like, oh, no. It's all done. It's all passed through. And it's like, okay. So Christmas Eve, I'm making a cheesecake to take over to dinner. And I get a text message like, yep, he's sick. So it was still going through their family. So we ended up getting to spend like Christmas Day just like at our house. Like we made our own dinner and made some sous vide steaks, which were delicious. So and ended up going over there for dinner later on in the week because they once it was officially through their house. So but we officially dodged it, which was great. So
that is great.
And then New Year's came. We went out and hung out with that same group of people. And
you guys went out on New Year's?
Yeah, like not out. Like it was New Year's Eve. We went to this little like one half of it is this amazing beer store. It's called Ollie's. It's an amazing beer store that sells. It's the sister store to where I used to get that Lithuania beer, like the werewolf beer.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, where it's just all kinds of crazy beers. And then this place in particular, though, the other half is like a brewery and eatery. So they have like this like really kitschy menu. I don't like it at all. It was gross.
What's a kitschy menu? Like silly names for stuff?
No, it's just like there's like 4 kinds of burgers, you know, and they're all like really artsy, and they don't have French fries. They have like frites, which were fucking gross.
You go fuck yourself, frites. It's like a hipster place, is what you told me.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Saying that out loud, I just realized that it should be a New Year's resolution of mine to let go of this whole hipster grudge, because I think generally it's not. I should just let it go. Anyway, you continue.
But that's one of our things. That's like that. We can't.
Fuck it. I'll hang on to it just for the show.
Yeah, just for the show.
even if I'm able to let it go in my heart, I'll still make the comments just for fun.
Yeah. No. At the end of the day, that's really all it is for fun. Like, it's not really rooted in any. It's not rooted in any hate that would drive us to action, I don't think.
No, but genuine frustration, like with the bike thing. Like, I get very mad at bicyclists.
Bicyclists. Like,
I think the important thing is that I know it's wrong of me, and I try to, like, it's a quick impulse, like, oh, this is frustrating, followed by, well, that's stupid. You're wrong. You know, you, Dave, are in the wrong. But like an unwillingness to just. to be the bigger person. Whatever. So
nope. I'm with you, buddy. We can both be the little person. That's okay. On that one.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
So you guys went out to did you go out like for the ball drop and stuff, or just sort of earlier in the evening? I don't know if I've ever gone on New Year's Eve. That's why I'm interested.
No, we just did that. We did that really early too. Like, we were out at like 6. So we did dinner out. We got our dinner there, and then went and bought a couple beers because we needed to do beers for. We ended up going back to another friend's house, and so we were supposed to bring beers with us. So I took some of the beers that I brought back from our beer exchange in Des Moines to there, where they would every hour they would open up. There would be 3 beers in a bag marked with the hour, and everybody would get a sample of those 3 beers, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is neat.
And we just sat around. And then the other game that they played, you got a quote, a movie quote, a person, and a place or something like that. These 3 strips of paper you had to draw. And then the goal was you had to get somebody to say those things throughout the night. And whoever got the first person to get all 3 of their slips of paper, once you got somebody to say those things, you got to turn your piece of paper in.
Like in conversation?
You're
throughout the course of the evening?
Yeah, you're trying to steer them to try to get them to say those things.
That's so cool. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
So, that's what... And that just went on all night. You know what I mean? Like,
what were yours? And did you get people to say them?
Oh, yeah.
How did you try?
Oh, man. I can't even think if I can remember. I got Sirius Black, I think.
Oh, that'll do.
And, oh, shit. I can't remember. But I used, like, right off the bat, we had just started. Everybody had just drawn theirs, and everybody was, like, clear on the rules. And I was like, hey, what's that one guy in that movie who's like this? And they like say it, and I'm like, oh, that's the first one.
Oh, that's good. You jumped right on it.
Like, so right before that, I did that. Would have made it more funny. Right before I did that, because I'm like, this game is a little lame, you know, and like the host of the party, the wife, was like, just do it. If you're the first one, just play the game. If you're the first one that gets all 3 of yours turned in, I'll show you my tits.
Whoa!
And I'm just like, all right. And right after she said that, I was like, so what's that character in that movie? And like 30 seconds later, in my first strip, I was like, first strip down. So that was pretty good.
Wow. You didn't get to see him, did you?
No.
But that's a hell of a motivator.
Yeah. No, I actually...
Behold the power of the titties.
Behold the power of titties. You got it. No, that was I was playing DD that night because I needed to perform because it was just at that point in my wife's cycle. So, because we're trying
to bang
to
in the new year.
Yeah. So we did that until after the ball dropped. And then
pun always intended.
And then the ball dropped again.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yes. Okay. Yeah. There. That's what I was waiting for.
And then that was the new year, and then we went back to work, and it's all been pretty uneventful since then. We've been we're slowly meandering towards starting our 2018 goals, which I don't know. I guess maybe I believe in pulling that trigger slowly. I don't know. You just got to be ready for it. Like, you can't just jump in with no plan. I can anyways. So that's what we've been doing, is just getting ready for these changes that we're trying to make. So, but we'll talk about that later. That's I have some goals that we can talk about.
Do you normally do? Well, yeah, we'll save that question. Well, that's great. I mean, yeah, we did a similar kind of staycation thing once we get through, because our Ohio trip, it takes like 12 to ish hours to get out there, and then we have anywhere from 3 to 6 households, family wise, like nuclear family wise, between the two of us to see. So it's gotten in the last few years where we try not to stay like too long, because we do like generally we try not we bring the dogs. We don't want to jump around and sleep at all those households.
Right.
And there's a tendency, like, when you don't have children, to still somehow be treated like children, or I don't know. We argue about this sometimes.
Expectation that you like, well, you don't have any kids, so you should just do, like, what inconvenience is it to you? Like,
yeah.
I hate that. I fucking hate that. Like, you're two adults without any kids. You have zero responsibilities. Like, what inconvenience is it to you, really? Well, fuck you. Like, I like sitting in my pajamas at home in my own chair with my ass groove in it just as much as you do. You know what I mean? Just because I don't have kids doesn't change that.
Yes, exactly. So, and there's not like that's not a constant or conscious thing. It's just, it can be, I don't know. We're away from our home and trying to jump to a bunch of different homes. And so that is, it's great to see family, of course, and all that, but it is a bit like exhausting and somewhat stressful. Like, nobody really feels like they get enough time, and we feel bad because we don't feel like we're giving everyone enough time. So by the time we get home, we're just like, oh, that was good and bad. Like, this time on the way home, we were feeling particularly shell-shocked in one moment, or we're tired or something, and I was just like, let's start just like saying this was awesome and this was awesome, and then that was actually kind of fun, or like this was nice and that was nice. Like, for instance, just randomly, my one nephew got a bunch of gift cards for stuff, and so I don't know what, he was just and he's kind of a mischievous guy. He's in his early teens, and so somehow or other I ended up using his phone, which has that kind of slow motion thing. Like, it starts in regular motion, goes to slow motion, which I don't have on my phone. And I did this like filming of him making it rain with his cards. And I had a blast doing it, and he seemed to enjoy it as well. And I came home and I made like a short rap video out of it for him. But even before I edited it together, it was just like a fun thing. So we were, rattling off like, oh, this was really nice. This was, My sister had a baby in April that I had not met. I got to meet her. That was pretty amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So stuff like that. In any event, once we got home, we also just like, we're so glad to be home and not have anywhere to be, that we did the same thing of just like holed up in the house. It got really cold and it had snowed and all that. And so that was really nice, actually.
It was awesome.
Yes. Likewise. Yeah. So we both enjoyed that, I think.
We bought a Nintendo Switch, so we played that.
What is that? I had just heard that. I've heard of that, but I don't know what it is. Is it just like the latest operating system, or is it?
Oh no, it's like Nintendo's newest gaming system. So it's really sweet. It's actually pretty amazing, the engineering that went into it. But it has a dock that when it's in its dock, it's on your TV, and you have these two little controllers that you play with. They look like two halves of the same controller, but they're separate. They have things that you can put them in that will connect them together, so it is one full controller. Mm-hmm. But you can take those two things and go to the dock, the piece that's docked connected to your TV, and slide those two controllers down on the side, and then lift the whole thing out. And then there's a screen in between those controllers, and then it's portable, and it's the same system. So like you can take the game and play it anywhere, and then you redock it again and charge it, and it's a mobile and console all tied in together. It's pretty cool. But then the whole thing about it is one of the cool things about it is if you like, you'll see pictures where people are like on a plane and they have the screen propped up and then the two controllers taken off the side, and those controllers can work together as a single player, or for like Mario Kart 8, you can give one to another person and then you have one, and you each can control a different car and race against each other, even on that little screen, like in between. Like,
yeah, you know, I think the nephew, maybe the same one that I helped make it rain, got. I think he got that, and the bride played it with him. I think I was conversing with the adults, and I knew she was playing a game, but I think it was this whole thing, and I think it was actually Mario Kart. Yeah, and there was just like epic freak outs and just like her shouting. You know, I think there's a reason we're treated like children sometimes. Now that I think about it, she was like shouting at them, like, well, we don't
have children that we have to set examples for.
That's right.
So the children that like. The children that we do get to interact with, all we get to do, like, we get to be friends with those children. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
And so but I guess that's the joy of being the one without kids. You know, you know what I mean? Like,
get to be the fun aunt and uncle.
So,
or aunt or uncle.
But I mean, but there is a rub where you're just like, but don't fucking treat me like a kid. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna be 40 fucking years old. Like, don't treat me like a goddamn kid.
I'm always joking that kids have it made in some ways. Like, we were just we actually went to a dinner sort of gathering, I guess possibly a dinner party last week, the bride and I. We felt very fancy. We had something called raclette, which we've never heard of. So I think it's Swedish.
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
It was a certain way of preparing, like, you each had a little station. Not each separately, but there were on the table we were at with two other couples. There were I don't know what you call it, like a skittle or skillet, excuse me.
Okay.
And then on the top where you cook meat and maybe vegetables, and then underneath you put in a little tray like a certain kind of cheese, good melting cheeses. Oh. Anyway. But I
like cheese.
I mentioned that, and that was amazing, and we didn't really quite know what we were going to have when we were getting there, and they were still preparing it. But I'm watching the kids who were also there get pizza, and I was, you know, under my breath to the bride. I'm like, oh, fucking kids haven't made. Look at them getting pizza.
Fucking A right, you know, like
yeah. And then at the end of the night too, as we were all leaving, like there was still a little pizza, and the kids were getting it before they went to bed. I'm like, oh, you see,
son of a bitch!
I want the pizza.
I want all the pizza.
Of course.
I'm already now. I'm thinking about the pizza I'm gonna want to order when I'm done here recording.
And for sure, our raclette or whatever was far more amazing, and
sure.
it was an adventure and all that. But still, you see the pizza, and then they get to like have those little kid bodies and little kid bellies and stuff, and their pajamas. Yeah, that was the other thing. They was in full pajamas, but not like grown ass people matchy pajamas, like the kind that would have a cartoon character, and it's almost like matching sweats in a way, but lightweight.
Yeah,
that whole deal. Yeah, I came out of the bathroom and like the kids eating, getting served pizza. Even the one whose house it was that it was going home, and he's in his pajamas, and I'm just like, oh. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's
I have picked up. I have gotten in a bad habit, and part of it is just because my weight, where I am just in fucking sweatpants all the goddamn time. Like over the summer, it was athletic shorts, and now now that it's winter, it's sweatpants. I don't like when I get to Wednesday and I have to go into the office. It's like, khakis, like fuck khakis.
I wish we had a.
I just want to be in my sweatpants.
That would be one of them. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm wearing sweats now, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, and I don't give a fuck when I go out. If I'm wearing sweatpants, I'm like, "Yep, I'm wearing sweatpants. Fuck you." Like,
that's kind of awesome. I think sometimes it depends on where I'm at in the day if I'm gonna make the switch to go out.
Oh.
So I want to get into our favorite things and stuff from the year, and I'd love to hear about your resolutions and stuff. One of the things that I think we've teased on the show beyond just off air, hoping it would happen, was something we were calling Twinkie's Take, which I thought was going to be, I think the first one I thought was going to be on Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
And something he could record whenever it was convenient for him and then submit for us to include in the show.
Sure.
And he surprised us with a first Twinkie's Take that isn't quite that. It's not an opinion piece about a particular piece of media. Right. But rather, I think it was his sort of thoughts on the year that was, and some... I can't remember exactly, but something to do with the year ahead. And as we were about to reflect on both those things, I thought maybe it'd be fun to introduce that the first Twinkie's Take.
Don't you fucking call me Twinkie! I said don't fucking call me Twinkie! Don't fucking call me Twinkie! If you fucking call me Twinkie again, we're done!
I've had better years than 2017. Not significant singular events that have been challenging, but this overarching negativity, almost like a day where at first glance the weather appears to be good, but one glance into the sky and the dark, heavy clouds make their presence felt. It started with the inauguration of a misogynistic, racist, egotistical, small-minded mini-dictator in training as president. And throughout the year, I've also been working on some interpersonal relationship problems of my own creation that have been heavy to carry. And I feel as if my perspective of life, this last revolution around the sun, has been skewed. And then comes George Miller, the director of Babe and Happy Feet. Oh yeah, and the co-creator of Mad Max. I'm watching a documentary on the making of 2015's Fury Road, taking a break from watching the actual movie for the time, and he's discussing the arduous process of getting the film made over an 18-year period. During his discussion of the stresses and challenges of filming in the Namibian desert, he quotes the following: "Pay no mind to the thunder, but listen to the birds." Turns out to be a partial quote from an early 20th century American pianist, and it really struck me. Yeah, these dark clouds are there, but the chances are they'll always be there, and they've been there since at least the earliest 20th century. And it kind of goes hand in hand with another revelation of mine that I've had in 2017, and it relates to mental health struggles. I've always known in a pedantic and academic way that I'm not alone in dealing with anxiety and depression. It wasn't until I was honest with myself and talked with others about it that I really experienced not being alone. and it clarified for me that we all have clouds and thunder. Now, some days darker than others, some handle their clouds differently, and we are in a different place, each of us, in the process of confronting and mitigating them. But they are, and will continue to be, present. So my goal for 2018 is set. Maintain an honest assessment of life, but focus on the birds and not the thunder. So, should be easy. I'm just going to hide my head in the sand, pretend everything's rosy and wonderful. All right, well, not the easy part, or the sand part, really, but an effort to hear the positives in the face of sometimes overwhelming negatives. So let's get to it then. In order to prepare for this 2018 outlook, let's look back at a few of my relevant birds of 2017. The LWSD cast, reacquainting with lifelong friends, meeting new friends, and talking about and with cabin kids, movies, and Mr. King, amongst hours of walking and occasionally drinking some very good beers. Finally getting my streaming apparatus set up on Twitch, motivated by the LWSD cast and their creative powers, and my own mental health struggles. My goal is to be a positive influence in the gaming community and supporting smaller game developers by giving their games some free airtime, whether that's to 0 viewers or thousands. Politically, a few progressive victories in November demonstrated that the U.S. population hasn't abandoned those among us who need this republic to be the city on a hill that its founders envisioned. Hopefully more to come in 2018. If we are attempting to be honest, it's going to be a rough task at times this year, but I have some really good news. Since we all have clouds and thunder and birds, we have each other as help along the way. To pick us up when we fall down, to walk with us as we wrestle through our humanity, and to laugh with us when we see how ridiculous all this can be. Now, frankly, there are going to be times when we just need help to put one foot in front of the other so we can survive and battle just another day. And it turns out the things that we or society want to label as weaknesses, drawbacks, and negatives can be the common humanity that empowers, unites, and strengthens us. So I'll end with 2 questions. What are your birds of 2017? And what do you hope to hear through the thunder in 2018? See you on the podcast.
Oh, I love that so much.
No, it's so good. Thank you so much, Twinkie, for preparing that for us.
Yeah, that was so much more than I could have imagined. Like, I was very happy just to hear what he thought about a movie, but that was like a thoughtful and super vulnerable and revealing essay. Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
I can't wait for more of those in 2018.
Absolutely. That's one thing that I can't look forward to enough. It's more Twinkie.
That's right.
The moral. I said it at I don't think I said it while we were recording, but I said it while we were in Des Moines, where it's like Dave's just like Palmer, and like ramps me up, and then Twinkie comes in and he's like, let's just think about this though logically for a second. And always brings Palmer back down. So I like.
We got a nice good dose though of like an in between Twinkie in Des Moines too, when he got just tired and tipsy enough when he was like, fuck Kentucky.
Yeah.
A couple other things that were that same kind of like, obviously we know this is wrong, but it's kind of funny because of it.
Yep.
I wasn't prepared for, but I know just what you mean, and I'm so glad that we have him to bring that to the show, and of course to our lives. I didn't include personal things like this in my top stuff from the year, but yeah, I couldn't echo enough like what he's saying about how this show has been such a force for like good and reconnecting with old friends and facilitating new friendships. Oh yeah. Absolutely. A lot of that too has to do with Twinkie in particular. He was the first person we heard from that we knew that. Or actually the first person we heard from at all that was listening to the show, best to my knowledge. Yep. And seemed to really be getting something from it. It was willing to get then on mic, and yeah.
And really helped steer that, and because of that, helped steer the development of like what the show like Cabin Kids becoming a segment, like something that we're like working towards on the show, and I mean, because there's going to be plenty of those. I feel like this year. So yeah, no, it's totally right, and it is a huge, powerful force. I had said that one of the I was in a funk over the last like week or so, and just not feeling myself and just not feeling great about anything, and I really think part of that was because we had gone so long without recording, because the last time we recorded was Des Moines,
oh yeah.
So that would have been like the 13th or 14th of December, and now it's the 10th of January. So it really, like, dude therapy is not a joke. Like it is actual, like there is an actual benefit I feel to it. So no, I can echo that. Again, I just didn't want to, I felt like if I remember right, I did not get a chance to listen to last year's. But I think, didn't I list us as one of my top things from last year? I didn't want to do that 2 years in a row. So that was the only reason why I didn't pick us. But yes, this was a definite positive force in my life for last year, for sure.
When it was the first year in which we were really it was more than just you and I talking on internet calls. I mean, I think we started to publish the show in early December of 2016, I guess. But nonetheless, it was, we started to get some feedback for the first time, probably in 2017 or very late 2016. In any event, this was the year that like we were putting it out into the world and sometimes getting, like throwing a ball out there and sometimes getting it thrown back. And it was definitely really cool. I do love how his first Twinkies Take actually did set us up to look back at 2017 and what are your birds that you listen to amongst over or under the thunder. What are your birds of 2017, and then what do you look forward to hearing over the thunder of 2018? Anyhow, so I know you've been working on some goals, and of course we both have some lists. But kick us off with whichever one of those things you want to talk about first. I think both of them are queued up nicely by Twinkies Take.
Oh no, absolutely. Well, let's talk goals first, and then we'll do our top 10, and then that'll steer our conversation for the YouTube lists, and then we'll be able to wrap up.
Cool.
That sound good? And that'll be our best of 2017 show. So
yeah.
All right. Let's. Do you have goals too that you're going to share?
I don't have New Year's.
I was inspired.
No, go ahead.
Mr. J, because Mr. J, like, he's like, this is something that I do that has been really beneficial to me, and I feel like one of the things I want to try to do is to like really put into practice advice that people give me instead of just instantly refuting it. That's like, because I have a bad habit of doing that, of just being like, they don't know,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I can do that sometimes.
So I don't want to do that. Like, maybe I should try this, because what's really starting to happen is I'm finding out that I don't know. It's not that they don't know, it's that I don't know. So Mr. J had shared his goals for 2018, so I was inspired by that. I don't have 3, I have 6 though.
Nice.
So,
that's even better.
I feel like I've really got to be, in 2017, I really got to be sloth-ish. So it's my responsibility to really put in the extra effort this year to overcome that. So I don't know. Do you want me to just go down and read them, and then we can talk? You can like stop and like interview me, I guess, or like you normally do.
You said you had 6.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Like one of the any way that you feel comfortable. I don't actually have. What did you call yours? You called yours goals, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have goals
by the end of 2018.
Oh, yeah. I don't have goals. I have developed these things that are kind of like daily goals or affirmations, and these like personal practices
No, that's
one,
good.
2, 3, 4, 5. So if something intersects with something, I can piggyback on. That way, it's not just you sharing stuff and then I don't share anything. But otherwise, you could just keep going. I mean, you know, I can't help but interject. So.
Well, no, but that also applies because one of my things I'm trying to look at goal. I am not a great goal setter, and I'm not like that whole middle management approach to goal setting just really puts a bad taste in my mouth. And I know that goal setting works. It's like, and there's like research proven that it works, and it works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for me. So I have to try something different, you know? And so I'm trying this like minimalist approach to goals, and because if all you do is focus on the reward, like you can just you ended up getting into this point where you're deluding yourself into just thinking about what it would be like to have the reward is enough instead of actually working to achieving it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, is it a little bit like setting the process of setting the goals and thinking through it is its own reward, or?
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't say that that's the reward. I mean, the goal is I want this thing to happen by this time, but I want to focus on the action items that achieve that goal, not the goal itself. Like I'm going to focus my energy and my attention on the action items that are going to get me there. So that way, when I get to the reward, I'm going to get to enjoy it as I've actually earned it, as opposed to a delusional state where like, oh man, imagine if I had this awesome thing going on, what that would be like. And that's just a personal thing, I think, for me that I'm trying to work through. So I'll give you an example. Like this will be a good example. So, like my first one is by the end of 2018, Palmer is going to will have begun and maintained a healthy lifestyle that is centered around eating less, eating more whole foods, and exercising more. So the goal is very general and simple because that makes it it makes it really hard not to fail at getting the goal first off, which I guess that might be like cheating. But also,
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
I'm going to expand that with action steps like that. How am I going to do those things? Like, I'm obviously not going to jump right in. Like, what are 3 things I can do over the next month that are going to help me get towards those? And let's focus on those things. And that's what I'm going to track throughout the year.
That's great. I actually do have one. I can volley a little bit.
Okay.
It's surprisingly short coming from me. But so I develop based on just like trying to, we have the mantra around here. I don't know if it's a mantra or whatever, but it's something the bride said a few years ago that I seized upon because we both thought it was funny. She just said one day, like, get it together and do it better.
Yeah.
Like when, just like you're struggling with doing either or both of those things. And, so one of my, I'll explain where they came from later because it's actually one of my favorite things from the year. But I have this list of affirmations is what this method or place of inspiration calls them. So I have one for health that sounds similar to yours. So there I have them titled into these different things. So health for me is I respect my body, I exercise more and drink less. I eat well to fuel my creative pursuits and do not gorge myself on empty calories.
Yeah.
So with the affirmation thing too, part of it is that I read them aloud at the beginning of each day in the hopes that it helps to like sink in, and that they need to me to come from a motivated place. That one in particular, like it needs, and we talked about it recently on the show. Like it's got to not be about vanity. It's got to be about other stuff. So where the eat well to fuel my creative pursuits is like, if I would stay up too late and drink too much, even if I'm working on my creative stuff, then I'd be wrecked for the next day and couldn't do anything. So the motivation actually comes from like, I want to be able to work on my thing and not be too stupidly hungover or something like that to do so. The gorge myself on empty calories is also too, if I'm staying up late, drinking too much. Because like for me, if I drink too much, it's usually because I'm happy, oddly enough.
Right.
Like just last night this happened. It's so funny too. You were talking about being in a funk and, part of that being from not recording. And I've talked about on the show, one of my favorite podcasts is Tell 'em Steve Dave. And that's a podcast of three main guys and then sometimes guests. But they just published one yesterday that I think they even recorded yesterday, which is unusual. Or anyway, but they talked about at the beginning how two of the guys really didn't feel like they were going to be good on mic because they were feeling frustrated or down. And the other guy was like, I guarantee I'll cheer you up with just like this nonsense he had to bring to the table. So it was a very fun and spirited episode in which they were at the beginning, they do acknowledge that, and they laughed so hard. One of the guests, they thought like he might have had a mini stroke or not. Like they were worried about, like they were laughing so hard, and then suddenly everybody stopped dead because they thought something really bad happened to this guy. But that's all to say they were having such a great time and making each other laugh so much, which is what they always do on that show. And I think Brian Johnson, one of the main guys, we've talked in the past, just the last episode, I think, about how that show started in some ways to help him out of a depression. Yeah, he said, he's like, I always feel like I don't like when we don't do the show for a while. If we could only just do this every day, I'd always feel this good and all this. So it's kind of funny how all that worked.
And it's so true. I mean, well, I there's no like hiding it. I don't have a very large social network anymore in my life, and part of that is it's just harder to make friends when you're adults, and a lot of your social circles are centered around either your work. You don't have school anymore as like a social outlet. And so in Dayton, like my baker is really like he's like the only thing, the closest thing to a friend that I have. You know what I mean?
Your baker?
Yeah, like my guy, like the guy that I get my cake
from. Okay.
Because the baker makes cake.
Yes. All I can think of is Pineapple Express, which I just imagining you at an action adventure with your baker.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's kind of nice.
So awesome. Yeah, but that's like my only friend. But like you think back to like the cabin days, like I had the whole network of the cabin of people that were just, I can remember during that period of time from that summer of the cabin into the next year, because there was a group of us that started the like poker night and all that stuff, that was after the cabin. I felt like every day I was not working or going to school, I was hanging out with somebody from that social network. I was doing something with one or more of those people. And now, I mean, Ash, God bless her, she is my best friend. Like she's who I do everything with. So this is like super important. This is like a super double D's on too. Double D.
Yes.
I got double D and Twiggy. So like this is like this is the closest thing I get to like going out for beers with buddies. Because Absolutely. I don't have buddies that I get to go out for beers with,
That is point for point all the same for me.
Yeah. So and it's not for any lack of that I don't want friends or any lack that I'm socially broken. It's just there's just not opportunity, I work an hour and a half away from where I live, so my work friends are not friends that it's easy to hang out with. My family's all far away. It's just this has a much bigger outlet than just like getting drunk and talking about geeking out over Stephen King books,
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah.
There's more to that for me and for Twinkie, it sounds like, and for you and Double D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Love you, buddy.
Yes, likewise. That's been a new thing. Like, so for instance, for me, Double D is someone I met through this, and I don't make new friends often, so that's been very nice.
Yeah.
So just before we move on from this one, I wanted to finish the the connection to all of this because it's embarrassing to me, and hopefully then someone else will hear it and be less embarrassed or alone and perhaps engaging in the same debauchery. So yeah, my affirmations: I exercise more and drink less. I eat well to fuel my creative pursuits and do not gorge myself on empty calories. So I try to eat right and eat well and all that. And that's not easy for me to do, but I've found ways to make better habits. That's always the goal. But I do love to eat things and love to drink things. And so last night I was listening to that episode, Tell 'em Steve Dave I was talking about. I've gotten to the point too where I've had I'm able to have several days a week where I just don't drink anything. Because that's not to say I get drunk always, but usually I'll have beer or two. Where it's whatever. It's something I like, and I'm just trying to make a habit of that.
I eat cake every day.
Oh yeah. So, and I'm not trying to make it too hard a stance. And it's just not to just do it just because, or just grab that beverage just because, if I really felt like it, then I do, even if it's like a Tuesday, as yesterday was. But, so I was working on something where I didn't have to listen, only watch. So I was listening to podcasts, and I was, at this point, I think I'd already gone through a Fighter and the Kid podcast that I like. Again, that's like two guys shooting the shit largely, and just a fun dynamic to listen to. And then I was on to the Tell 'em Steve Dave and hearing about that, and just feeling happy and good and productive, but not in a way that I had to be super engaged with. And so I'm getting something out of the fridge, and I'm like, Or no, I was doing dishes. That's what it was. And I was putting something in the fridge, and I saw the Surly's. I'm like, that actually sounds honestly good. And so then fast forward a couple hours, and I'm back up in the kitchen listening to Tell 'em Steve Dave, taking a break from my editing, and just real happy. And I think I'd had just 2 Surly's, which is not that much, but I was feeling pretty good. And the line, do not gorge myself on empty calories, is there for a reason, because every once in a while, and I would say even, unfortunately, probably once a week, all the crackers. In this case, it was chips. I'm just standing in there eating sea salt chips, just standing, shoving them into my face. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this is not good. But I don't care. And then I moved on to peanuts and some kind of trail mix. And I'm just like, oh, geez, I shouldn't be doing this. But I didn't care in that moment. And then today it's I feel like, I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, so that's why I have that affirmation.
Last night it was 10 o'clock. And I made Totino's pizza rolls which Double D, listen to this. This is a pro tip for your Totino's pizza rolls.
The bride and I have those almost once a week as well.
When you pull those out of the oven, take sesame oil, drizzle sesame oil over them fresh out of the oven, and then kosher or sea salt sprinkle over them, and then toss them in the sesame oil and sea salt or kosher salt. It was it just went up to this new level of amazing. But 10 o'clock last night, I'm making fucking Totino's pizza rolls and tossing them in and I justify it. No. I'm not this isn't just stoner pigging out because I put the sesame oil on there and the code. This is fancy, so it's okay that you're doing this.
Yeah.
And then you eat 40 of them because why not?
Those things are good. And that sounds like an amazing way to prepare them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to strike a balance, myself at least, between having better habits and a lot of it trying
What's
to
your favorite
make sure...
Totino's pizza roll flavor? What
Oh, just pepperoni rolls. Am I thinking of the right thing?
Supreme. The Supreme is the best one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we don't try too many different ones, and the bride loves pepperoni. She actually likes that, and then a tray of baked pepperoni, small pepperonis that are crisped up. So
Double D's,
we're gonna try this.
So small. They don't even count as calories. That's so true. That's the same thing with Dayton pizza, because they cut Dayton pizza into squares this big. You have to eat 18 of those little squares. Yeah. See, Double D likes pepperoni Totino's pizza rolls. Yeah.
I'll try the Supreme. I'll run it by her.
I like the Supreme a lot. It just because it has onions and peppers in there, and sausage and pepperoni. So it's cheese, onions, peppers, sausage, pepperoni, all in there.
And that does sound good.
But I'm telling you. It came out just fine, Double D. I think it came out just fine. But no, try it though, tossed in the sesame oil with the kosher salt. Like, man, did it take it to a whole new level.
Will do. Well, as we say, it's good to have goals. I mean, you got to have something to shoot for, but you got to live a little. So what's your next goal?
All right, let's see what we got here. So number 2, by the end of 2018, they all start with that. I'm not going to keep reading that. So the next one, number 2, Palmer will complete at least 3 major projects in his wood shop.
Nice.
And I have the 3 projects already. That's where the action steps come in. But I know what the 3 projects at least that I'm going to do. So I want to make my wife's Ohio coffee table, and I want to make a wood gear clock, and then I want to make a stereo record hutch that will hold all of my records and my stereo. So those are my 3 projects.
That sounds fantastic.
That's my next goal.
I have a similar one.
Okay.
It's actually, I have those affirmations, but I also rolled something up into something that I called my personal practices.
Well, light it up, buddy. Like, let's smoke that.
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. Right, exactly. I wish. The 5th of those, though, is I spend at least 1 hour at the end of every weekday working on editing my personal video projects, leaving Saturday and Sunday to, quote, relax. And the at least 1 hour part comes from, there's a lot of nights where it's just like, thankfully the bride does go to bed earlier than me, so it's not like I have to stay up into the wee hours of the morning, but it is, it's kind of a window of starting, like, best case scenario as early as 10, and try to get up at 7, so it's like 10 to 12 is ideal anyway. But a lot of nights, like, I just don't want to, or I'm too tired, but I find that almost always, if I just sit down for a little bit, I'll get into a groove and hopefully get somewhere with it. So that's where that comes from. Awesome. So I can't limit it to a certain number of projects I have. I have a list of like 5 documentaries I want to make this year.
That's just my woodshop projects. Like, that's not.
Oh, yes.
Like, I again, 6 goals. So my third one, Double D is right now he is eating Cheez-Its while drinking Irish cream. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
This is horrible.
That's impressive. Cheez-Its.
Yeah, I'm not even mad.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You pooped in the refrigerator. Okay, go ahead.
How'd you get in there? All right. For the third one, Palmer will have started the LWSD empire with its own website showcasing the podcast, his blog, and the projects of the other cast members.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I was just thinking during Twinkie's take, like, because it felt like it was something that he wrote out. And I was like, this would read very well too. That would be a great home for that as well.
Well, and I'm again thinking how we're moving towards a YouTube environment. A lot of YouTube channels are sistered with a blog where there will be text that either expands upon or is independent of what is on the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, I love it. I have just enough going on to have not taken that over from you.
No, I know, and because I'm dragging my goddamn feet on it. That's the problem. So
it's gotta be fun, That's important. Well,
that's paramount. Don't take it from me. I'm going to do it. Like, it's going to be.
No, I wouldn't. So it's so hard for me not to even just pay for several more like domains of my own that I realize I won't really be doing much with.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be conscious of that, just from a logical standpoint.
Well, and again, my whole thing with this is that this would be this would be the jumping point for future projects, like anything, like I see all of our cast members having a space in this web,
Yeah,
site,
absolutely.
where projects
already
can be
is
housed. So
Yeah, that's already true. Everybody's got at least
they're
one thing.
all under the empire. We all support each other, comrades. It's more. It's more. I think it's more of a social communist thing more than an empire.
Yes.
So, all right. So there's the blah, blah, blah. Palmer will have his finances on track to purchase a house with Ash in 2019. By the end of the year. My next one. This is a big one. Palmer will read 12 self-improvement books to broaden his understanding of himself and better his relationships with everyone else in his life.
Wow, those are two pretty big ones.
Yeah.
I mean, buying a house is huge, and 12 self-help books is not bad also.
So my goal is like one a month, because those read so fast. So like,
Well, they can, but sometimes some of the ones I've encountered recently, they're almost like workbouks under the guise.
oh
of
yeah,
like a
you
quote
need
book.
to like spend a lot of time with them. Like
Sometimes,
yeah, that's fair. I mean, I guess as long as I'm doing 12 by the end of the year, the time frame wouldn't really matter.
Well,
I already
if you
have
listen to them,
I just ordered the first one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
What's it called?
The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah. So, it's basically just to not get worked up about stuff, which I really need. So,
And as listeners of this podcast, you can go to audibletrial.com/LWSD and with your free 30-day
LWSD, just LWSD.
Yeah, I know. It's you can download The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, a counterintuitive approach to living a good life by Mark Manson. Oh, hi, Mark. Narrated by
Mark.
Roger Wayne. It is only 5 hours and 30 minutes long, and you can get it free with a 30-day trial at audibletrial.com/LWSD.
Double D recommends Unfuck Yourself as well. Is another good one.
Let me search for that on Audible. Unfuck Yourself. Yeah. Oh, that's in there too. Oh, these are great. That one is, Unfuck Yourself by Gary John Bishop, narrated by Gary John Bishop. That's only 3 hours and 23 minutes. Almost 5 full stars out of over 4,000 ratings.
Oh,
Also
that's awesome.
available
Wow, that's
on
great.
Audible.
You can't beat that. I already have the next one set up too is
See if it's on there.
I'm trying to think. I already have it. I've started to read it. Let me see if I can.
I've got one actually on Audible, the one of the few that I have read and would recommend. I read it this last year and thought about putting it on my list, but I ultimately didn't. But I will mention it now as Designing Your Life, How to Build a Well-Lived, Joyful Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans, narrated by the two of them. That's only 6 hours and 18 minutes. I actually read that one at a book. As a book, because it does have a lot of kind of guided exercises, but I did find that was quite good. I went to like a stress management appointment that's offered through my work, and
I
it
want
was
to get
funny.
the name of that one again. Hang on.
Oh, sure. It's
Go ahead.
It's called Designing Your Life. How to Build. That's the main title. Designing Your Life.
Designing Your Life.
Yeah, it'll come up. It came out in 2016 and it's quite popular. And I definitely got a lot out of it. In fact, in my journal that I've been carrying around, I cut out certain pieces of stuff that really work for me. And some that you can see up there, that's actually, I went through and like marked up my book, and went through the exercises and stuff. But then I also went back and printed out a couple of things that this tended to be actually how to work through a problem. Anyway, I really like that book. The idea is that you approach your life and what you do in your sort of day-to-day life and stuff as a designer would. So designers, like, if you were designing a logo for someone, you wouldn't just give them one thing. You would give to quote Logan, back in the day when we were watching videos of people driving around Rittman, and he was trying to convince his wife to come over. It's not just one thing; it's many. They were doing a lot of different things. You would turn in a lot of different designs for people to pick from, because an idea is just an idea, and you have to try to find the one that works best. So Anyway, I really like that book. I would recommend it. It is on Audible as well, so you could.
What's the one about the food one too? The willpower.
Oh yeah, that is. Let's see. Well, actually, there's a couple.
What's that one?
The
though,
Why
that you
We Get
told me
Fat
about
though.
What's that one about the
Why You Should Never
willpower?
Die Again? Yeah.
Okay.
The Myth of Willpower. That actually is pretty good. I read the Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It, but I think this one is better. Tracy Mann is the author. I'm looking it up. Secrets from the Eating Lab. Yeah, that's the main title. Secrets from the Eating Lab, The Science of Weight Loss, The Myth of Willpower, and Why You Should Never Diet Again. Which actually I think Double D might have asked me about, and I didn't realize that that's what he was asking me about. So Double D, that's for you too. That's kind of cool because
I found that the one that I was the next one that I'm going to read too is 10% Happier. Dean Harris, he's a news correspondent, like an anchor.
Yeah, I see that on Audible as well. It's fun. I'm finding him. So, how I tamed the voice in my head, reduced stress without losing my edge, and found a self-help that actually works.
He basically, it all boils down to meditation. He throws all the hokum out and legitimately finds proof, like research that supports that just actual meditation works. And so he has a nervous breakdown like on the air.
Oh wow.
And so he needs to figure out what's going on, and through that he like connects with some different health gurus that he's met throughout his career. And that's what his takeaway from all of their advice is that he starts meditating, and he finds that really helps him stay focused. So that'll be the next one that I'll read after the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Oh, that's great. And along the lines of the meditation, I read this years ago, or I think I listened to it. Catching the Big Fish: Meditation, Consciousness, and Creativity by David Lynch. And that's kind of how he reads it. It's magical.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
That's only an hour and 47 minutes if you need to squeeze in one for the 12.
Wait, what's the name of that one again?
Catching the Big Fish by David Lynch. That has to do with meditation as well. So if you want to piggyback that one on the other one you just mentioned.
Yeah, I might do that. Okay.
Sorry, Double D. This is Double D's nightmare of an episode, this one, because it's
you're like
billion
media, because then we're going to do the top 10 also.
Oh, so many things. It's good that he has those Cheetos and the Irish cream.
Well, he said he's logging off because it's buddy time.
He's about to have a conniption fit.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, I got buddy time too? That's great.
So, all right, the next one is 12 self-improvement. Palmer's going to submit one article and one short story for publication.
What?
Yeah.
Say more about that.
No, that's just what the goal is. Like I'm probably going to go through the process to become a writer for Cracked, because they're always like looking for writers.
Wow.
And then the short story for publication is I want to submit something to Fantasy and Sci-Fi Monthly, which is like this pulp magazine that's been around since the 60s. But Stephen King has published in there multiple times, and like they were one of the first big magazines that he published in. And Dark Tower, the gunslinger, started. He first published his stories in Fantasy and Sci-Fi Monthly. So I'm gonna write a short story. I have an idea for a short story that I'm gonna write and submit to them.
That is outrageous and exciting. I'm so glad to hear that. That's so cool. Both of those things.
So yeah, those are my goals for 2018. So that like the first step is, of course, the goals, because that's what you want to steer. But again, I want to focus on the action steps. So that now I'm going to go through and I'm going to start developing the plan for how I'm going to achieve these goals. And that's what I'm going to focus on, is like those, what action do I need to be doing every day to work towards those things.
Nice.
Instead of just sitting and fantasizing what it's going to be like to have those things, because that doesn't do any good.
Right.
So
I remember I find all kinds of things to try to help me like achieve goals. A lot of times for me, goals are, well, more and more they're about self-help, I guess, is a umbrella under which to put them. But very often about creativity and like achieving project-based goals. But I remember as a kid, my dad just saying something about making sure that your feet are pointed in the right direction. Because then if you make the smallest steps and stuff, you're kind of headed where you eventually want to go. And that's a small thing that always stuck with me. And I'll try all kinds of different stuff. I make a lot of to-do lists, and sometimes those are more or less helpful. But
I have one of my earliest action steps that I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my financial budgeting strategy to time versus money, because time is also a resource. So it begs the logic begs that I would be able to use that same process that has been successful for me budgeting with our money to budget my time, and say, like, if I have this starting amount of time and I break out my day and I take out all of my requirements that I have to do in the day, and then what I have left, how am I going to break that up so I don't just end up burning it all sitting and watching YouTube all night long? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So I'm going to try that. That's going to be one of the first things that I'm going to do, so that I can look at a week and say, all right, on Thursday from this time to this time, that's when I'm going to work on my woodshop stuff. And on Wednesdays, that's going to be long walk, short drink time, where I'm either working on the Empire or I'm working on recording,
Yeah.
But just budgeting all of that time. So to keep me focused, and really to say, no, you're not going to sit there and watch YouTube for 3 hours straight or nap in your chair for 2 hours. Like, there are these things that need to get done, and it doesn't say nap on your schedule. So
yeah. I think that's a great use of like a skill that you already have and that has proven, like with your budgeting and stuff. That's a terrific.
Thanks.
Modification of that.
Yeah, I think that'll work. So,
and it's a good idea too, because like it's not just something that somebody else has recommended, but rather something has worked for you. Like that seems to come from a genuine place for you, that you'd be less likely to your brain, to talk through or just miss or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it feels good. And I find that whole thing too about just to try, like, that sounds so stupid, but like the 1 hour thing for me, that's important, because the hardest part is just to start like that day for a couple minutes. And then I think if you really don't want to, you just stop, but that almost never happens.
Right.
Even today, like for me, I spent all day looking at screens here at home in a way that I don't normally. Like, I wasn't editing. I was just having to read this stuff, and I had drank and eaten too much last night, and I was just feeling fucked up, like, and bad, like worse throughout the day. And I think I had a lot to do with the computer screens, but we were going on this family walk / run, and I was like, I don't even know if I can do this. And like, I certainly can't run, but we got out there, and I was like, well, fuck, I'll just try it. So I just started out with my little slow plod, and I was able to just like stick with the slow plod. And I had the headache. I still have the headache, but it's like, shit, I didn't think I could do that. But the main thing was just like deciding to, it's like, well, I'll just try it for a second. And then it was fine. I hate running. Is like, I don't look forward to that at all.
Well, the other side of that though is like, because Ash and I were kind of barreling towards, and I might have mentioned this in Des Moines, like we were going to try keto. She's been really adamant about trying keto, and we were just about to pull the trigger on it. And I thought to myself, we still haven't proven, like we know if we eat less by monitoring our calories, and we exercise more by not spending every evening sitting on our asses watching YouTube, and we actually put an hour of just put a number on it, 20 minutes of activity every day at first, or half an hour or whatever, leading up to an hour of good, solid activity every day. And if you stayed, like she stayed around like 16 to 1800 calories and I stay around like 15 to 1700 calories, we would lose weight if we could just do those two things, right? We would obviously lose weight because what we are living now supports the body mass that we have. If we were to change those things, our body mass would change. Mm-hmm. And so it always comes back to, well, we haven't proven that we can do those two simple, those are free. Those don't cost anything. They have the minimal amount of effort to do. Just like, let's just prove that we can do those two simple things. So I came back to like, why would we add those two things? Obviously are harder than we think there are. Why would we add keto on top of that? Like, let's just do these two things and like wait until we hit a plateau, and then maybe that's when we go to keto.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That sounds like a very sound logic.
So and Ash was a little disappointed because she was really rich, and I think she still is going to try to do some modified form of keto. I just don't think anything. I mean, really, like that. You're allowed the less carbs, like 20 carbs a day, essentially 20 grams of carbs a day, which is less than the amount of carbs in an apple every day.
Oh, fuck.
I just don't think that's realistic. Not forever.
No. I hear it's very expensive and very time consuming.
Yeah.
That particular diet.
Well, yeah. And it's so fucking hard on your liver and kidneys because all you're eating is protein and fat. And, It is great because when you hit ketosis, but it's only effective if you're in ketosis. That's the problem, because that particular process is where your body is burning fat as opposed to the fuel that you've eaten. It's burning its stored fat, which is when that's happening, that's awesome because you are burning your body fat. But still, it's so hard to say, okay, I'm not going to eat bread ever again. Why would I jump into that when I haven't even said that I can exercise every day? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Why would I say, let's exercise every day and no bread? Go fuck yourself. Like,
No, that sounds very good in terms of like setting yourself up for small successes, because those tend to build on themselves. And even with all your other goals, all of the goals that you mentioned, but I relate best to the project goals. There's always like a next step. So I will sometimes have a list with the projects or various things, but like I'll always try to attach like, what is the very next thing I need to do for this? Like,
right.
So something like the website, one of the first steps could be that you just pick whether it's Squarespace or one of those services, or what you pick, like
make a generic one first.
Or even just picking the service, or even just like, today I'm going to try out those services. Like, there's so many micro steps to getting anywhere with anything. Like that if you take
I did
the
start
micro
a class. I started a class on
that thing you won,
on HTML.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just using the website as an example, but I think with all those things, or what I'm finding is that like literally taking whatever that first step is very helpful, even though but that first step is always the hardest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, that's so true. And I just need to buckle down and just do it. Especially I have so much time right now. So, let's take another pee break and then come back and let's just volley back and forth on our top 10s.
That sounds great.
How's that?
That sounds really great.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right, buddy.
Back.
Yep. All right. Holy shit.
Do you know what this is?
No, what is this?
I'm dressed like Dustin from Stranger Things. So, you can kind of see with the red hat. I mean, the beard doesn't help.
Yeah.
This purple sweater.
Yeah, you have.
I don't know if it's in season 1 or 2, but it's
that Brontosaurus
or sweatshirt. Yeah, I thought maybe you would have heard about this. Have you heard about this sweatshirt?
No.
It's maybe it's a Minnesota thing too. It's for the sweatshirt is the Brontosaurus, the quote thunder lizard, the Science Museum of Minnesota, and it's a purple sweatshirt, hooded sweatshirt that the character of Dustin wears in Stranger Things. I don't know if it's season 1 or 2. It was given to me and the bride as a gift by close friends, and then they were looking at us waiting for us to seemingly get some joke that we weren't getting. Or at least certainly I wasn't. The bride claims to like have known but not expressed like, oh. But so it was so weird and awkward, and eventually they explained the one, it was a couple, and she was like, I knew they wouldn't get it. I think it was her cousin that thought we would get it, and his wife that made I guess they're very hard to come by. Really? Because it's a period accurate thing from the 80s. The exhibit would have existed in the 80s, aligning with when Stranger Things took place. And I guess the character Dustin wears it for the majority of some episodes in one of the seasons, and they decided to start making them, and then they sold out of them immediately. They were really hard to come by, and so we didn't necessarily get it right away. We got these Stranger Things hats from Target that are mostly identifiable because of the white front, blue bill, and red side. And then we came in to where a couple of her family members at Christmas time we knew would know Stranger Things because they decorated their house with like the lights like they did in season 1 of Stranger Things. Oh yeah. They did that for Christmas. So we came in, the bride and I, wearing this matching outfits and backpacks, and like, you know, 2 of the people got it. In any event, I thought maybe you'd get it, so I put that on the break.
Well,
check it out on YouTube, folks.
Nice segue, though. This is probably like on your list of top 10 things, I'm assuming.
You'd think. I mean, I would put it on there. Like Stranger Things season 2 was fantastic. Okay. Like season 1 was. I don't know what possessed me to put this on, but I did. Well, so I would watch it on YouTube, folks, if you want to try to put it together. You're so up on things. I thought you might know about the sweatshirt, but that might be a regional thing.
I knew about. He wore orthodontist sweatshirt that had a brontosaurus, I thought, on it. Like, but it's not a brontosaurus. It's like an orthosaurus or something. Like some catchy way of saying like Dustin.
The bride actually walked into a classroom with this on. It was pretty funny to hear about, or to imagine your college professor. You know, a skinny white lady, blonde hair, walking in dressed up like, the 12-year-old boy from the 80s.
Oh, here we go. Brace yourself for the future. It's an orthodontist t-shirt from the 70s or from the 80s, but it was a legit thing. Here, let me send you a link.
Is it the purple thing? Maybe it is. Maybe it is what I'm wearing.
No, it's not. It's not what you're wearing. The shirt looks different. No, that's not it.
Oh, it is different. Yeah. Okay.
But if you scroll down, it's like that yellow square.
You see the Brontosaurus one though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Dustin's retro Science Museum of Minnesota hoodie went viral too. That's what I'm wearing. Yep. I'm the footnote.
There you go. Oh,
I look exactly like it.
Yeah. Just like that with the beard.
If only I had like Double D's like microphone.
He does.
That comes around like the Madonna mic. It's exactly like that. I'm gonna save that. I'll tweet this out with the episode.
That's awesome.
All right. Sorry, it's a little weird detour.
No.
but relevant, I guess, to the year that just passed. So that was a kind of a
start us off
thing.
Though. Why don't you start us off with like the first one on your top 10 from 2017?
I don't have an order. Ooh, I'm looking at the
mine are not in order either. Mine are all equal value.
I'll just look at the one that's at the top of the page.
Okay.
Which I actually don't know, but sorry. Okay. It's Blu-ray reissues.
We only had an entire year to get ready for this, Dave.
I know. I found it surprising, not like difficult, but my things are generally these kind of groupings. So this one is Blu-ray reissues.
Okay.
I guess, yeah, started, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. So Shout Factory, I sing the praises of Shout Factory a lot on this podcast. Yep. Early in the year, I got into collecting their run of beautiful reissues of Bruce Lee's short run of films other than Enter the Dragon, which is owned by Warner Brothers. And then they also published the I Am Bruce Lee documentary that his family was involved in. So those are each fantastic and have really nice special features, beautiful packaging that I think I talk about one of the other episodes, but here you can see for Fist of Fury, which is also known as the Big Boss. So they do this nice thing where they have double-sided artwork a lot of times with Shout Factory to where and then you can choose which side displays, but it has, in this case, the original. And what they almost always do is like they'll come up with some kind of new artwork for the video release, but then on the other side, it's based on the original poster artwork that would have been period accurate, whether that's a movie from the 90s or in this case the 70s. And whereas Fist of Fury is the American name, Fists of Fury is the American name of this film, it has on the other side the proper name, which is the Big Boss. So Shout Factory is one. I looked up there. They have a nice little quote that I liked about. They say on their Twitter, we're celebrating 14 years of putting pop culture on a pedestal. I thought that was great because that is kind of what they do.
Absolutely.
They give like the. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I mean you're gonna say like they give the
Criterion
treatment to movies that. I mean, and not to like belittle Criterion, like those are great too. They're fucking expensive. But Shout Factory stuff is like, it's like, why doesn't every movie get that treatment? And Shout Factory really helps you feel like it could, like every movie could deserve that kind of treatment.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really nice to have, and especially being at the age we are, there's a certain sort of, nostalgia that's kicking in for the people that are probably running that company. One of the nice things too is that, so some of the other title, like one of the titles that came out this year is Teen Wolf, which I think I talked about in previous episode.
And that's a beautiful edition of that.
Yeah, and actually there's Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2, you know, TOO, which is with Jason Bateman, and he's a boxer instead of a basketball player. So, here I've already switched it. So I've done the slipcover thing, or like they have the double-sided thing. So one is the new artwork. And in this case, if you have Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2, our YouTube listeners can see me holding this up. They actually, like the Jason Bateman one, if you put them face to face, they're looking at each other and they're very much in the same style.
That's awesome.
Which is pretty cool. But then, you know, the original artwork is also an option. So they have
which, by the way, that's a VHS cover that is burned into my brain. The Teen Wolf cover.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have, and I've held on to this on VHS because I fucking love that cover so much. And even it's slightly even diminished to have it on the dimensions of a Blu-ray, but so cool that they keep it. They had as this ad, this is sometimes happens with Shout Factory, they were advertising coming to DVD, not even Blu-ray, the Teen Wolf cartoon on September 5th, and something came up with the rights. That happened with one of my favorite series from the 80s.
Get to do it then.
Yeah. So that happens sometimes late in the game. They're coming out with a Cyborg reissue that has unknown special features as of this date. It actually got pushed back. Its street date release got pushed back to February from January. But also I'm not gonna. I'm trying to suck Shout Factory's dick for too long, but like they published other cool stuff, like Brandon Lee's film debut in a 1986 feature called Legacy of Rage that I ordered out of like the back of some kind of weird ass catalog from a martial arts magazine in the 90s, and I have like some sort of PAL converted, you know, VHS somewhere. But this is a nice like DVD version with a commentary from a dude, and I learned a lot about, you know, this movie and Brandon Lee that I didn't know from that commentary. I'm not going to go through them all, but they also do they also have a lot of, so they'll do kind of runs like they do Bruce Lee's movies. They have a lot of Stephen King movies. So that's where I got the Firestarter, which happened to follow my chronology this year. But they have like Carrie and a bunch of other stuff. They've got a lot of John Carpenter movies, a lot of Wes Craven, a lot of these guys that I've just been getting hip to. It's like Firestarter, you can see the new one and the old.
I would want to get their John Carpenter stuff. I've heard their treatment for The Fog is amazing. Like the addition of The Fog that they have is really good.
Yeah, their treatment for everything is fantastic. The last Shout Factory one I want to mention is Into the Night. This is a movie that came out
Double
in
D's gonna fucking hate you.
I know. Sorry, Double D. But this is came out in 1985. John Landis directed, Jeff Goldblum and Michelle Pfeiffer. I love this movie. I remember getting it on VHS. It was very exciting to me as a young man because Michelle Pfeiffer is naked in it. She walks across the hallway. She didn't do much nudity, so it was exciting. But it's also just a fun, weird little movie. And this came out in this great, like, beautiful Blu-ray with extras. And they birthed this thing called Shout Takes, which is a podcast wherein they take interviews from their special features and air them in a longer format.
Oh, nice.
Their debut episode is Jeff Goldblum talking about this movie and all manner of things, and it is one of the most magical things I've ever seen or heard. It's the most Goldblum thing you'll ever witness, which is how they characterize it. I don't even know. I shouldn't get into it. Maybe I'll just make a note to tweet out. They have some clips from it. I'll tweet out with the episode. It's crazy. So it's not just Shout Factory. I won't belabor the point too much. There's a couple other companies I want to give a shout out to. One of which is Twilight Films, and they do these sort of short run of like 3,000 copies of certain similar kind of movies. You know, they single out movies, and they do a lot of Sean Penn movies. But what they do is they have a really nice essay that come with the discs and an audio commentary with the director, usually moderated by someone, and will often have an isolated score track.
Oh, nice.
And so I picked up At Close Range, The Fabulous Baker Boys, and State of Grace. State of Grace was one of my Palmer's picks, incidentally.
Yeah.
Starring Sean Penn, Ed Harris, and Gary Oldman, and directed by Phil Joannou, who it was his first movie after making Rattle and Hum with U2. Anyway, I didn't know anything about that movie other than I fucking loved it. It's about the Irish mob in New York. And hearing this commentary was such a joy for all three of those movies. That I don't know. I had never heard of this company, but they're magical. And then Kino Lobe. Oh fuck, I can't say it. Kino Lober, Kino Lober. They have a handful of stuff like that too. But the two I picked up this year that I really fucking love is Avenging Force, Michael Dudikoff, 1986. Yeah. No Retreat, No Surrender, also 1986. First film role, U.S. film role of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Oh my God. And these have conversations with the writers or directors, fucking Dudikoff interviews. Like, you can't find Michael Dudikoff special features on anything. So God bless Kino Lober. And last but certainly not least in this sort of reissue Blu-ray thing is some company out of Europe that makes these premium cult editions. So we did an episode on Cyborg this year that had JCVD that had all this extra information that I was able to get from this German company called, last one, people, I promise, Digidream. Digidream-studios.de. I don't know. I think that's German. So they give this treatment as best they can to movies, by and large, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme or Michael Dudikoff. And it's fucking magic. So there you go. That's all grouped for me under Blu-ray reissues. Go.
Dave's head is killing me. So Moto says that Dave's head is killing me. Must have missed something, but I love it.
Oh, yeah.
He said he tried to join the chat. If you go to our,
through YouTube.
You go to the YouTube channel.
I was going to take it off. I'm going to leave it on now. I also got someone else that doesn't know how to sign on YouTube, but I'm so glad is listening. Is Steiner from Cabin Kids, recent Cabin Kids episode for our listeners. He says, tuned into the live stream just long enough to see and hear Brontosaurus sweatshirt, which was enough to confirm you guys are still doing the Lord's work. Wait to hear the full episode. Oh, God damn it. I feel like the luckiest guy
seriously,
now, like, I mean,
seriously, I don't care if nobody else. I just want our friends to watch our show. That's all I want. That's enough for me.
All these people have been on mic too. Like, it's the. So I'm closing these tabs from all these Blu-ray things, but
that's fine.
This is pretty singular interest of mine. But in case you're all so curious, seek those things out.
Well, no, but that's So that's your number one. My number one, like, I am very specific. So my number one is It, the It movie.
Fuck yeah. I actually have that as one of mine too, so this will double.
And just all things surrounding that. I loved how we really got to bond over the audiobook read by Steven Weber, and just
that's one of the best audiobooks.
Yeah, and one of the best performances ever. Just how he literally performs that book. And then just the movie being so fantastic and just being its own thing and living up to the hype, especially after the disappointment after the Dark Tower book or Dark Tower movie. How I needed it, like I felt so desperate for it to be good. So just all of that made it really easy for that to make it onto the list. On top of it just being a fantastic fucking movie.
It was great. We talk actually. I made note of certain of these things that we talk about at length. So in case somehow you're hearing this and haven't heard our other episodes, we devote a whole 4+ hours to It and all the things It in episode 33.
And I should just knock off all of those ones that we have full episodes devoted to. The same thing with we have an episode already on Get Out. That's
I had that too.
Yep, that's on my list.
And that episode is outstanding. It features Palmer's wife Ash in a tour de force fucking research / insight into this movie.
And that's one of the reasons why that was again easy to make the list, because of the impact it had on my own life. It's an amazing fucking movie to begin with, but then how we got that great episode of Long Walk Short Drink out of it. Like, seriously, if you're just new to the show and you haven't, I believe that if you join a podcast that's established, you should just join it. Like, don't worry about you're gonna know about the important backstories that you need to, because they'll say, oh, remember that episode where we talked about this, and you might be motivated. But if that's the case, if you haven't gone back to listen to any of past episodes and you decide you might want to try that one is a great one to prove that there's stuff worth listening to back in those earlier episodes.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of our early episodes. That's all right. That's a tour de force though by Ash. So
I'm 5 in. Jesus.
I'm echoing the It. Like, I brought It in my in all things It, just as you did. I brought the book. I actually got the miniseries too on Blu-ray. It wasn't a special reissue, but it did include a commentary by director Tommy Lee Wallace and actors Dennis Christopher, Tim Reed, John Ritter, and Richard Thomas. They were all buddies. Like, I didn't get a chance to talk too much about this, and I won't now, but it was just really nice to hear that they all seemed to bond and were really fond of the movie and each other still to this day.
Another one that we have a whole episode devoted to that we've already talked about on this episode even is Star Wars The Last Jedi. And again, that it's I mean, well, there's stuff that I feel like it since our second, and I saw it a third time even in the theater. Ash and I went and saw it we saw it twice together, plus the time with all of us in Des Moines. I was so emotional on the second viewing where I actually I wasn't just blown away with look how magical that looked. And I can't believe the backlash that is fucking coming from this movie. Is it blowing your mind?
Oh, yeah. I've kind of moved on from it, but I was staggered by it at the time, because of course we saw it before opening night, like that midnight or whatever, early Thursday before the Friday that it was the official release. And we all seemed to really enjoy it. We had a nice discussion about it. I mean, there were some criticisms, as you can hear on 36.5, our episode, but our first and so far only episode where we were all together in one room, in one space.
Yep.
In someone's house.
Which I never thought
Airbnb.
ever, since starting this podcast, I never thought that would ever happen. And we got it taken care of in the first year, the first fucking real year.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
but certainly we all had a largely positive experience. I'm sure somewhat informed by our getting together in that way and in that special circumstance for that shorter period of time. And and then I started to hear things. Did I tell you what happened to me in this? I did. On that episode, I told about the staff meeting, I think, where people were starting to say things about, each person was supposed to talk about Star Wars in some way as like an icebreaker as we went around the table.
Yeah.
And people were saying bad things about Star Wars, or like someone said Mark Hamill couldn't act. And then it got to me and I was just, I didn't tell you about that?
No.
I thought for sure I did. Jesus. Okay. So
when it got to you, were you just like, and you can go fuck yourself, go fuck yourself,
Kinda.
fuck yourself, and you suck a dick. Like that.
Yes.
Like,
opening quote, but yeah. So it was like an icebreaker on the table about, this larger meeting that wasn't just my normal. It was kind of a topic, but not associated to the teams anyway. So it was a broader thing, big group, icebreaker, people all different ages and stuff like that. But then like in front of me was a 25-year-old, I'll just say kid, whatever, who I do work with sometimes, but didn't know he felt this way. And he said like Mark Hamill, he's like, I agree with so-and-so. It was a good movie, or it feels like a good movie, but not a Star Wars movie. Because maybe this was after. Yes, this was after. So I didn't tell you. Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot it had come out and we'd all seen it and we'd recorded that podcast. So, he's like, it was a good movie, but it was not a Star Wars movie. And finally, Mark Hamill learned how to act. And then it came to me next and I was like, okay, I'm going to take issue with what this guy just said and say, not only do I love Star Wars and this Star Wars so much, it's like I mentioned like the podcast and all that. And then it moved on, and somebody else said something negative about Hamill within a couple of more people after me. And I spoke up. I'm like, I will not let this dissolve into like people bashing Mark Hamill. And I was yelling, but it was supposed to be funny, but I was also mad. I'm like, fuck you guys. This is so not cool.
Yeah, no, and again, it's just one of those things. I know I liked it, and that's all that matters. Everybody can say whatever they want about it, but sometimes you hear some shit and you're just like, what are you fucking talking about? I don't care who you are. If you can't acknowledge the fact that last shot of that kid holding that fucking broom, like every fucking person has, that is the most powerful image ever put on film for Star Wars. I'm sorry. Like, that's it. That's what Star Wars means, that's what the hope is. A new hope. It's that hope that you as a small, tiny individual in that vast galaxy of everything that little kid is looking into still has the hope that like can make a difference in that vastness.
Yeah.
My
main thing is like, and I felt like this about reviews for a long time. I've mentioned it on the show, but particularly about this one right now. It's just like, I really don't want to entertain people's arguments as to why I shouldn't like or enjoy this thing that I did. Right. Like, to where I just don't even want to hear reviews if it's like, I don't know. I don't
My
care.
opinion to like it is just as valid as their opinion that they want to browbeat you with,
Yeah. Like, I feel so much too like a lot of that is just people seeking attention for the wrong reason, or like for negative reasons. I heard the weirdest thing just the other day. One of the podcasts that I really like is called Cinema Fireside. I mentioned on the show, and it comes out of Milwaukee and is published on SoundCloud and features Mark Borchardt of American Movie fame and this other guy called Gabe Van Handel who calls in. and Gabe was saying that he felt they talk a lot about like highbrow and art films and stuff like that a lot of times, and we'll make that distinction. But Gabe felt that this Star Wars was the only Star Wars to be like an art film, and he said that it really surprised him in this way, that it strung together these three storylines that intercut between reaching this kind of fever pitch and like took all these big chances. I was very surprised to hear this particular guy, erudite guy, kind of pretentious film scholar, talk about it in this way. And I was just like, all right, well, like that I'll take.
Right.
You want to say like nice, cool things, like good, positive things
Sure.
about a movie I already like and elevate it even more. Like I'll take that, but I don't really want to hear people tell me why it sucks.
But I don't want to say it like that, because then you start, I hate adding fuel to the argument that you're only like, we don't live in a society where it's so easy to only hear things that support your life view, and that's not constructive for change, right?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Confirmation bias.
Yeah. So, it's not that, oh, you're talking positive about it, so I'll listen to what your review is. It comes back to that text that Twinkie sent, where it's just, you can say it's not a good movie. That's okay to say. And you can say that it didn't do what you wanted it to do. That's okay to say, but you can't say that it's not a good movie because it didn't do what you thought it was supposed to do. It is what it is, like I guess that's the same thing with the prequels. Like, I need you to just shut up about the prequels. Like, I'm never going to get new episodes 1, 2, and 3. Those are episodes 1, 2, and 3. Like, that's just the way it is. I can choose though not to watch those.
Right. Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and I can have the opinion that they're not good movies. But it's not that I feel that they're not good movies because they didn't like fulfill my theories. They're not good movies because trade regulations aren't. That doesn't feel like the spirit of Star Wars.
No.
You know what I mean? Like trade disputes isn't like the spirit of Star Wars. This movie, like, the whole thing is about the spirit of Star Wars. Like, it really explores the Force and like, what does that mean? Like, you're never going to have just the light side without the dark side, and you're never going to have just the dark side without the light side. And I think this one really pushed forward that envelope of like, what does the Force mean and what is that? That's not midichlorians,
Well, even to that idea of like that Luke Skywalker would bring balance to the Force, or that Anakin Skywalker would somehow bring balance to the Force through Luke Skywalker. That could even extend to what he just did in this movie.
Right.
And I think to that idea as well that you were talking about, or Twinkie's idea that just because it isn't what you'd hoped it would be doesn't mean it's bad or wrong.
Right.
I read that thing in IMDb trivia about Mark Hamill's first reaction to the script and to Rian Johnson being like, let me first start by saying that like I disagree with everything you've done here with the Luke Skywalker character. But now that we have that out of the way, let's go about trying to realize your vision. And I'm sure he had different thoughts about
Mark Hamill is a professional. And how he's like, I disagree with all of this, but you're the director, so I'm going to do my best as an actor to achieve that vision that you have.
I have to imagine too that he probably doesn't still feel that way, and I think a lot of people seized upon the controversy of that idea that like, well, Mark Hamill fucking hates Star Wars,
right?
It's like,
no, I don't think. I totally get what you mean. What can you do? Like, again, it's just like, fuck it. I know I liked it. That's all that matters. Like, my wife liked it. We had a really great connection over that movie. Nothing, any review I watch, any negative review I read or watch is going to take that away from me.
That's right. Yeah.
I had a great viewing with all of you guys.
Exactly.
Nothing like negative thing is good. I read or say is going to take that away. Like, I had a great time with this movie. And even through all its shortcomings, like fucking Princess Leia flying through goddamn space. Like,
I was thinking of that too.
Even through that, like, I'm still gonna say, like, yeah, but I had a great experience with this film. That can be enough sometimes, And,
oh yeah. I mean, like for all like people bitch about stuff and I bitch about things, I mostly just want to enjoy things. I want to find things that I get excited about and really like. So when I do find stuff that I spark to, it's like, I don't really want to question it too much.
Yeah.
Or have to defend it or entertain ideas why I shouldn't like it.
What's your next one? We're going to be here all fucking night.
I know. Yeah. I don't, I'm gonna my next one actually
formal 10 like
no, and I won't even be that all that, and some of them like It was in there, Get Out, all that. One of my the next one I actually had after
my movies that I had.
Good.
I had one more movie, but
yeah, I don't have that much more stuff honestly, but one of them is a little bit of an umbrella as well, and it's just U2.
Okay.
In 2017, I saw the Joshua Tree tour twice. I saw they put out a beautiful deluxe reissue vinyl and etc. box set of the Joshua Tree for its 30th anniversary. I have, as a U2.com subscriber, they reissued the singles from that album as like what are these 10-inch vinyl replicas of
I bet there's a board of people
singles.
that are just like, okay, what can we put out that Dave will buy?
I know. Well, this is for everyone that subscribes to U2.com. I think you pay a yearly membership. It's like their fan club.
Okay.
Now, when I was first getting into U2 in the mid 90s, these were tough to come by, like these singles, because they were some of the first singles released on CD, and they had quite a few B-sides attached to them because like U2 at the time almost made the Joshua Tree a double album. So they were like pioneering this new form of singles that had these like 2 to 3 new songs per single. So they were
EPs now?
Yeah, sort of. But there's that weird thing with singles in the UK where like it means something different. Like people try to have the biggest single of the year, like you see in Love Actually. Like,
yeah.
Run for the. So, but they put these B-sides on them. Maxi singles, they called them, like in the 90s.
Yeah.
They were good for CDs. I put out 2 of them myself as like an independent singer-songwriter trying to hold on to that tradition where I put extra songs. Anyway, but so these are beautiful as well. They put out just a lot of cool shit for the Joshua Tree, and really that tour was like executed with a lot of vitality. I saw it in Dublin, Ireland, and in Minneapolis here. I talk about the Dublin, Ireland experience in episode 29 of our podcast at great length, so I won't go over that here. I go through the box set in detail. We listen to it and talk about that unboxing on episode 26 of our podcast, but also on our YouTube page. I have an unboxing video of that gorgeous set. They also put out the sort of sequel or second part to their Songs of Innocence album from 2014, Songs of Experience, which is a terrific like album entry into their catalog.
Yeah.
For years, for like 12, 14 years, I have made these kind of annual mixes of music that I've come across within a calendar year that has made a bit like that I wanted to document beyond having it be an album on my shelf. And this was the first year in all of that time where I didn't even encounter enough new music that I really responded to make one of those.
Yeah.
And I haven't found myself listening to a lot of music, certainly not new music. And this album is fucking great. Like it, U2 made one album I don't really like, 2009's No Line on the Horizon. And the big critique there would be that there was not a lot of personal stakes in that album. And so they really corrected that, starting with Songs of Innocence, and they've continued that even more on Songs of Experience with the personal element and feeling like there's high stakes and great songs, great lyrics from Bono, and also a commitment to rock and roll as like a revolutionary force that is going away. You know, if you think about like the 60s, the 70s, like even the 80s, 90s, like you'd have these sort of rock and roll would have a place in the cultural conversation. And I can definitely attest to being turned on to political ideas or political problems through bands that I care about.
Sure.
Making a point to to shed some light on some things that as you're seeking entertainment, you might not otherwise encounter. And that's just not, I don't know, like even with the last year that we've had with this horrible president, there's not much like angry music coming out to, I don't know, like where is that? And fucking, we're getting it from like guys in their 50s from Ireland who have an idea of what America should mean. And U2 does a great job. They've always have of like making songs both personal, political, and spiritual, all wrapped in one, like the same lyric. And so they're doing that. They're kicking ass right now, and I really appreciate that. So if you haven't heard Songs of Experience, they did not put it on everyone's iTunes library this time, which seemed to piss off a lot of people. Songs of Innocence, also a great album. Check it out. It's pretty spectacular.
I'll just rapid fire some of my music then, since we're on music.
Yeah.
Well, let me piggyback. Let's take one step back, then we'll finish up movies. So one of the movies that I had on here that we don't have an episode specific on, it came out just at the tail end of 2017. It's called Bright on Netflix. It stars Will Smith and I can't think of the other guy's name. You'd know him if you saw him, but it got a lot of flack from critics. But when I read the critic reviews, what they were giving shit about was how much Netflix spent on this movie. And
what does that matter?
and that's really like, it has Will Smith. Like it's going to cost a lot of money to get him in the movie, you know? Yeah. Joel Edgerton is
oh, sure. Oh, is this that thing where, is Joel Edgerton play
an orc,
a monster or something?
Yeah.
Okay. A monster, sorry, but a creature, not human.
It basically exists in a version of our reality that mythical creatures also exist in, and there is a history of those, just like they are there are multiple races of sentient people. That's I guess would be the easiest way to say it. Like
that's a great way of putting it.
You know, there are human beings, there are these orcs, there are elves, there's fairies, like all of these things exist.
Whatever Admiral Akbar is, rest in peace.
Oh man, poor Admiral Akbar. So those things all exist in the same universe, and this movie there's so much exposition told in the opening credits, all through like graffiti, that if you didn't really pay attention to, you would miss it, and you kind of get thrown into this universe. So there was like really high user reviews and really low critic reviews, and when I really dove in my opinion anyways, when I dove into the critical reviews, it was how much money Netflix had spent. It was like I think it's like 400 million. It might be I mean, which is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but they have fuck you money. They're Netflix. Like, people don't get that. Like their president of development of new projects went on record to say, we haven't canceled enough projects yet, which means you're not taking enough risks. Meaning like they were making too good of content. Like they were being too picky about what content they were making. So all of it was good. And that's how he was worried that they were going to get stagnant. So they wanted more stuff that they were going to cancel, because that meant they were taking risks. If they were like, nope, this is no good, you know, like, but at least we tried it, you know. They just have fuck you money. And it really reminded me of, do you remember when Waterworld came out?
That's the very first thing I thought of when you said they were complaining about how much it costs. Because I also remember the Palmer's Picks, when you're like, the critics can all go to hell because all his movies are great. Talking about Kevin Costner. Yeah. And I remember that you liked that movie.
And it really irritated by all that. Critique was how much money they had spent on it. It was just like they wanted it to fail because of it. And now it's like they spend that much on movies all the time. You know, and so that's what it reminded me of. It was a great fucking movie. Like, it just had like this. I love movies that don't waste time shoehorning exposition in. And they did a really subtle way to like bring you up to speed on the key points of what was going on in the story. So then you could just start the story. And it felt like I did get in an argument with somebody that this was because it's a buddy cop movie. It's billed as a buddy cop movie. It's like Lethal Weapon. They think that means it has to be a comedy. Lethal Weapon's not technically a comedy. It has funny
Not
stuff.
the first one, especially.
No.
Yeah.
The first one is not a comedy. It's like it has funny stuff in it, but it's a serious story, right? And it's the same thing with this. It's so
that's cool.
So that made it onto my top 10 list.
Let's volley a couple of movies because I don't have too many movies, and so I don't have as much to say about them. And a lot of the movies I want to call out, there's actually only two I really want to.
All right,
mention. They are not from this year, but I discovered them this year.
Okay, go ahead.
And both of them I really recommend you watch if you can. Don't watch the preview if you're interested. If you're going to take my recommendation, try to just go in cold. The first is called Boy. It's from 2010. It's directed by. Oh, I can't say his name. Taikawaiti. The voice of it's a voice of someone in Thor, like of an animated character. The Thor Ragnarok. Is it a tree or some shit? Fuck, I wish I could remember. It's like in that fighting ring where Thor fights Hulk at some point. There's a guy with a kind of a funny New Zealand accent, ultimately.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's the writer-director of this movie. And the short synopsis is set on the east coast of New Zealand in 1984. Boy, an 11-year-old child and devout Michael Jackson fan, gets a chance to know his absentee criminal father, played by this writer-director, who has returned to find a bag of money he buried years ago. The Bride just sprung this on me. It's on Amazon Prime. Fuck, I love this movie so much. It was so goddamn charming. So that's one. So good. That's all I have to say about it. Really.
All right.
Next.
Well, and then let me just do I'll just rapid fire all my music because you talked about U2.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah.
So I have specific songs. Now, what I'm thinking, not to put the cart before the horse, I was originally thinking that we would have all the cast do with like a mixed media list because there's always something that represents that media on YouTube, whether it's a trailer or the song or whatever.
Yeah.
I would have more music than what I'm going to say now. The few songs that I'm about to say are just like they struck out somewhere. So like Die Young by Sylvanesso is one of my singles from this year that's just so fucking fantastic. It's so good. It has this amazing synthesizer thing that goes into the chorus that's just fantastic. Die Young. So through Swiss Army Man, in my research of Swiss Army Man, I realized that one of the songs that I really love this year is by a band that the Daniels directed one of their earliest videos, Manchester Orchestra. So the song though that came out this year is called The Gold. It's a really depressing song, but Jesus, is that song good? I find myself singing it all the time. And the like opening line is, I don't love you anymore. You've become my ceiling. Like that's how it opens. And so I sing that like terrible line all the time. Like Ash and I are getting ready for buddy time. And I'll just like bust out like, I don't love you anymore. You've become my ceiling. And then like,
she's like, what?
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah. She's like, you're trying to get a bazinga, aren't you?
What's that mean? I know
so we play this game where you see how little of a song that you can either hum or sing to get the other person to sing
that's
it.
Right. Get stuck in their head.
Stuck in their head. And then if they start singing it, then you get to say bazinga. So
nice.
So Manchester Orchestra is The Gold. And Wish I Knew You by the Revivalists. So this song is really corny, but the bass, the chorus goes, I wish I would have known you when we were young because we could have got so high. So it sounds really cheesy and corny, but it's like it's one of those songs that when it comes on when we were in the car, that we would just like belt it out and sing it at the top of our lungs. Really fun. So,
you and Ashwood?
Yeah. So, like,
that's great.
On the soundtrack for 2017 for sure.
Very cool.
I don't have much. So we've knocked out all of my movies and all of my music. Do you have anything like any other major ones from your list?
I have just a couple of movie and music, I guess. Music wise, I also really loved Nine Inch Nails vinyl definitive reissues, which
those are awesome.
I don't need to say anything about here. But I will mention to check out episode 33 of our podcast where I talk about them much more. And also, if you go to our YouTube, or the Long Walk Short Drink YouTube page, you can see a lot of unboxing videos for a lot of those, like all kind of strung together. Those are fucking magnificent. Also a 90s alternative offerings. Pearl Jam did this this documentary / soundtrack for the documentary that came out this year called Let's Play 2. And it was made by this guy who's made he's done a lot of work with them as a photographer and filmmaker called Danny Clinch, who's, hopefully I've said that right. Now I'm suddenly second guessing. Clinch, yeah. It's a concert film centering on the rock band Pearl Jam's 2016 shows at Chicago's Wrigley Field. So Eddie Vedder grew up in the Chicago suburbs. And so what this documentary is it's like part exploration of his love of the Cubs and the Cubs as a kind of an underdog, and these concerts they were playing in Wrigley Field right around the time that the Cubs were about to win the World Series.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of these things where it's just really heartwarming, the whole thing. Like
right.
the performances, and then, you know,
Stephen King has a very similar book for the Red Sox. The year that the Red Sox won the World Series, it's I forget what it's called, but it's basically like it's the correspondence of him and a fellow Red Sox fan that he was like been friends with like their forever, and it's them like their emails and their throughout the whole season of the Red Sox. The whole book is just like transcripts of their conversations and events and kind of put together throughout that season, watching the Red Sox win the World Series and like breaking the curse of the Bambino and all that.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, it's like that, but like with Pearl Jam and in particular with Eddie Vedder, which is so it is a little uncharacteristic. He's someone who made peace with, but always been very shy about the limelight. And this documentary does really kind of focus on him, but like this sort of childlike joy he has surrounding that team. And then so it was super, super cool. If you get a chance to see that, they show it on TV sometimes, I think. The bride and I actually went to one of those Fathom event screenings where we could see it on the big screen, which was really fun. And really great. So those are the two musical things. One more movie, also something that didn't come from this year, like boy. Jacko told me about this. So Jacko was like awaiting the birth of his first child, and it was a little late, and I think they were just kind of sitting around waiting for his lady's water to break. And he suddenly sort of, it's kind of like texting, but he gets a hold of me in that way, and he says, "You've seen Searching for Sugar Man, right?" And I was like, "No."
Whoa.
He's like, "Oh, you must. And I think it won maybe an Academy Award even for Best Documentary. Am I making that up? No, I'm not even going to fact check that. But this is one. So Boy is great to go into not knowing too much, but that's not essential. If you want to watch a trailer for Boy, okay. Do not watch a trailer for Searching for Sugar Man if you don't know much about it. Just watch it. The movie is about two South Africans set out to discover what happened to their unlikely musical hero, the mysterious 1970s rock and roller Rodriguez. That's all I'll say about it. Like I just watched it based on his overwhelming recommendation, and it was so great. I'm quite a few years ago, but I just saw it. So
awesome.
There you go. I think that's it for my movies, music stuff, and most of my shit in general.
So I only had two more. I had so I have my YouTube stuff, and then I have my book. I had one book on there. I finally pushed forward on the chronology this last year. And Dr. Sleep made it on my top 10
Oh, good.
It was so good, and I was trying to articulate this to Ash, that one thing that I definitely have noticed in this in listening to Stephen King's books as they were published in the order that they were published. He gets accused of being very cyclical, like he recycles story plot points and story structures a lot, which I think anybody that's that prolific, that's going to happen, right? Like you're going to...
It happens a ton if you like in certain bands and albums, like they'll be repeating phrases and stuff. Like it's just kind of in a short span of time. If you're being creative, there's going to be some stuff like that overlaps.
Happen. And I mean, this man, he created an entire other person so he could publish more books every year. You know, like that's going to happen. And so, but I was just talking about how The Shining is really about addiction and about alcoholism. That's, Jack Torrance is really battling with that addiction throughout that whole book. And then Dr. Sleep, which is about Jack Torrance's son, is about AA and recovery from life after alcoholism, and breaking that cycle. And it's just, you can see how King's earlier work is just so, it's a young man's cynical outlook on like the man. And there's a long period of time where he's very anti-nuclear in his writings. There's a lot of you'll run into that where you'll see a lot of his characters are protesting like nuclear projects. Where now I feel like his work. So I went from Dr. Sleep to Joyland, which is almost like a coming of age story told in the first person. And it's just so much more sentimental. Like he has an old man's like sentimentality of life. It's so contrasting to his earlier work where people say like, oh, he just tells the same stories over and over again, but they're told from a different perspective, which makes them totally refreshing and worth listening to or reading.
Yeah.
So Dr. Sleep was definitely one of that. I mean, the AA stuff was really, really emotional for me for some reason to listen to. So,
that's cool. Cause I remember when you first were talking about reading that book, which I think might be in the episode just previously published, you were kind of unsure about it. So it's nice to know that it came around to being something you like so much.
I loved it. It was so good. The only thing I have left are just a couple of YouTube channels that really meant that I watched a lot this past year. The first one is Pure Living for Life. I would highly recommend, just if anything, just when you feel like you're struggling. I know this sounds shitty, and I don't mean it to sound shitty. It's nice to know that other people struggle too. It's not that you're enjoying watching somebody else struggle. It's that you take solace knowing, okay, it's not just me. So this Pure Living for Life is this YouTube channel. It's a couple who decided that they wanted to live a debt-free lifestyle. So the first episode is the woman, Alyssa, is driving to sell her car that she has loan out for. And they want to build a house and live debt-free in this house. And so the channel focuses on that. They're doing all the work on building the house. And I started watching it right around the time they were putting their water system in. But there's episodes where they just say like it was not supposed to be this hard, like where they're almost broken by this process that they're doing, and the bravery that they have to like put that out there and show people them in that moment of weakness and like where they're almost broken. It's just a really honest, great. They can be a little preachy from time to time. I'm not going to deny that, but overall, it's a great channel.
That sounds really nice. And the whole thing, you shouldn't feel bad. It's not shitty. I completely relate, and I'm the same way about that idea of it's not that you want to hear other people suffering, but whether it's music, like, and people singing their blues away, such as it is, or like,
Yeah.
see, it's not. I think it's just it's comforting to know that other people have struggles. That's why I was like, no, we're not getting through this moment like an hour or two ago when I was like, no, I'm going to say that I ate all that food in the kitchen just in case that makes somebody somewhere feel better, because that would make me feel better to hear.
I just drank a week's worth of bread. Like sitting there,
just a throwaway that piggybacks on that idea of like the kind of, if you're feeling down, how did you characterize that one? Like generally and what was it called again? Your one you just read? The YouTube channel.
Pure Living for Life. It's nice to, like, they work for everything that they do. They work so hard for it. And it's nice. It's just comforting to see that other people suffer like too. And to see the rewards that they get for that suffering. So like, you might not realize the rewards that you have. It just makes you grateful. It's a very humbling channel to watch.
For some reason, that made me think of one of my remaining two, which I talk about at length on another podcast, one of our podcasts on number 20, episode 20. I go in depth about the Bruce Lee podcast, which is where I developed or adopted rather that like affirmation thing and stuff. So the Bruce Lee podcast is, I'll read their 2-line thing. Join Bruce Lee's daughter, Shannon Lee, and cultural analyst Sharon Ann Lee, no relation, for a conversation about the life and philosophy of Bruce Lee. Each episode will dig deep into Bruce Lee's philosophy to provide guidance and action on how to cultivate our truest selves. And they call it sometimes like an applied philosophy podcast. So they'll take like a quote or something from Bruce Lee, who of course is a cultural touchstone for martial arts and just sort of general badassery and action movies and stuff, but was also a profoundly thoughtful man who with a degree in philosophy and who his entire life was devoted to sort of self-betterment and the development of his art and his life as an art. So I found a lot of solace myself in like ways to just sort of apply hearing about other people. So like they take a quote and they talk about how this relates to like their lives, like the hosts, but then also there was a community that developed it last year as it came out, where people would share, say, their Bruce Lee moment, as they called it. But it was often these things where people would share like struggles that they had and how some point in time, Bruce Lee's philosophy resonated and helped them through those struggles and stuff. So that's been a really positive force for me in a way to kind of, Bruce Lee also has a quote about there's no help but self-help, and self-help can be kind of a dirty word or like have certain negative connotations or eye-rolly things that I certainly share. But this has been a nice vehicle for me to find kind of ways of bettering myself or working on myself without it feeling like too as new agey as it sounds. I'll say that. So the Bruce Lee podcast, go to brucelee.com and check it out. I definitely recommend that very wholeheartedly. So, but you got another YouTube channel, right?
I do. I'm responding. We have another viewer on our live stream who says, I don't know. I don't have any idea who you guys are or how I got here, but I'm really interested for some weird reason. And so I'm just going to respond to this.
Oh, wow. We have a new best friend.
So I'm just like, thanks for joining. This is a recording session for our podcast, Long Walk, Short Drink. We geek out about shit we like. So this happens to be our best of 2017 episode, but we highly recommend, if you like this conversation, go back and check out some earlier episodes and definitely subscribe. You can click that subscribe button here on YouTube. We put the same podcast episodes out here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at LWSD pod. Email us at lwsdpod@gmail.com if you want. Hope you are liking
cool.
it. Yeah, thanks for joining us in the live stream.
Long Walk, Short Drink is the phrase is like a Western Pennsylvania expression for a long story with no payoff.
Yeah,
right?
That's essentially what it is we just ramble.
Yeah.
So
in that we do.
Yep.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Thanks for joining us. You'll be able to get everything you need. He says he's not on other social media. That's okay. You'll get everything you need on YouTube. Like we have.
Good for you.
This is our good for you. This is our live stream recordings, and then these will be edited down to actual episodes also. So and those will all be on the YouTube channel. So subscribe away. Thanks for subscribing.
That's so cool.
The last I think this is the last one I have. I love to cook, obviously. I love to eat, so I also love to cook. But this channel has it's so good. It's like quick little short videos, like less than 10 minutes, that really show the essentials of high skill cooking techniques to make really challenging dishes. And it's called Food Wishes. It's coupled with a blog called Food Wishes, same name. The YouTube channel, though, I think it's totally enough because you get to see him actually making the recipes that he's talking about. And there are so many amazing recipes that he just has this amazing teaching and presentation style and humor. He has this great diction, the way he talks as he's going through the recipes. It just all comes together to these great, really concise videos that have increased my cooking game like nobody's business. I highly recommend Food Wishes. Great vlog/blog. Awesome. So
is that where you got the idea to spice up those Totino's?
No. I'm a fat kid, so I'm always looking for a way to make things taste more fat kid friendly. So,
oh, that sounds kind of amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, no. He kind of changed my life on. He makes these things called so here's 2 good recipes to watch from him. First one is the Dutch baby episode.
Dutch baby.
It's like this like traditional German pancake that you make in a cast iron skillet in your oven. And it's like a custard pancake. That's the best way to describe it, with like lemon and butter and sugar on it. Like that's not
mad at that.
Yeah. So awesome. And then the one that I spent a week and I just finally got my first one to come out this week. It took me a bunch of tries to get it. The French omelet episode, like game changer.
Oh, so, I love me an omelet. How does a French omelet differ?
No cheese, nothing else. It's just egg and butter.
That's how
I know.
How is that an omelet?
But the way you cook it, the technique that you do it, that when you roll it all up, like some of the egg is not cooked all the way. It's almost like a custard inside. And so that's like the cheese, but it's egg. And then you put you put so much butter on it, like it's almost like it has cheese. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that would
Very
be
cool.
That would be the last out of my top 10 from 2017. So,
that's great. I actually revisited the other one of these we did last year, and I think there was very little. I knew it off the top of my head, but I'm saying it out loud to remind myself to do it about this one. I went through, or was at least equally familiar with everything you mentioned, and we mentioned a lot of stuff here today. So there's a lot for me to dive into that I haven't yet. Actually, I think the only thing it was that I haven't yet sought out or seen or whatever was 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think that's my only
John
remaining
Goodman's
thing.
performance on that.
John Goodman's performance in particular. Yeah, that's almost I think that's the only thing from what you mentioned last year that I haven't gone through. But yeah, I that's one of the things about this show I really appreciate too. Is like I get as I've there's a lot of familiar names in the things that I've mentioned and of the things that I like from this year that aren't even necessarily from this year.
Right.
So yeah, it's nice for me to be exposed to other things, and this is helpful in that regard. I have I want to rapid fire 3, some of which I don't even need to say anything about, and then that's it for me.
All right.
I don't even need to say too much about it, but I like this very much and haven't talked about it on the podcast, and that's season 3 of Mr. Robot. I feel like Mr. Robot's something that you would really like as well.
You've mentioned
that's why I
this
wanted to make
multiple
sure to
times,
say
yeah.
it.
So I need to check that out.
Season 1 is excellent. Season 2 is like especially dark and not as
Orphan
too
Black and
satisfying.
Robot, those two.
Yes, those two.
Times.
I'm not sure one or the other. I mean, the only
You're
way
like
I would
Robert
differentiate.
De Niro movie. You're like those two.
Yeah,
yes.
a little bit. Those two a little bit.
Yeah, you want to watch those the good ones.
Yeah. Well, these shoes.
Yeah,
But definitely. You know what that is? Yeah. The Bride and I do that all the time. That is Paul Rudd's imitation of Robert De Niro
awesome.
knocked up. These shoes.
That's awesome.
Every time. It's one of the reasons I'm happy I married her. Like somebody will say shoes. She's like, these shoes. Anyhow. The both fantastic movie or TV series. Orphan Black is finished now. It's a 5-series run. I think it's available on Amazon Prime for you can watch. Really strong female lead in that. Really smart show.
Yep.
I don't like science fiction, but this is science fiction that I like. Mr. Robot is like a combination of Fight Club, the girl with the dragon tattoo. It's
like that's crazy.
It is that like great too. Season 1 is really spectacular. Season 2 is pretty dark. Season 3 is a real like
Mr. Robot. And that's got,
Mr. Robot.
That's got cuffs in it, right?
Fucking A cuffs. Christian Cuff Slater. Goddamn right. Early in the Bride and I's relationship, so Cuffs, I fucking love that movie. That is maybe my favorite Christian Slater movie.
I only
Pump
said
Up the
cuffs because
Volume.
I know, like, I like
Yeah.
Cube, honestly, is like.
Fucking A Gleam in the Cube.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, this is where we're hetero life mates and why what's the opposite of hetero? Wait, no.
Homo.
How does that work though? Wait, so how can you be my hetero life mate and then I have a wife?
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't
because
work.
it doesn't work.
Shit. I'm going to write Kevin Smith. But one of the reasons, one of the early bonding things between she and I was that I sent her flowers and I said, I copied the message from Cuffs, which was something about really great to see you, love and kisses on all your pink parts. And she responded, she's like, you ripped that off from Cuffs. And I was like, you know Cuffs? You like Cuffs enough to know
that's
that?
Awesome.
Anyway.
That's all you knew. You had to marry her.
Yeah.
Like
it was pretty much.
Yeah.
Christian Slater is fantastic in that show, as you would expect, but like really he is. And the lead is magnificent. But it has it's all that I mentioned, but it also has a really distinct like visual style. It's
that's all on Amazon
magnificent.
Prime, you said?
I hope so. I think so.
I think it is.
It's USA. Yeah.
All right, what's your last one?
I think either of those, the pilot of both Orphan Black and Mr. Robot, like are going to catch you or not. My last one, I have two, but they're not really. One was just live comedy. At the end of 2016, The Bride and I saw Patton Oswalt live in person. We not
you saw the
seen
one
a
that
lot of
I
it.
said I really liked.
We saw that.
Is
exactly. We saw him developing that.
show.
Yeah,
where he's like practicing that show.
Yeah, and it was right after Trump was elected.
It's
and stuff.
so honest. It like it's some of the most brutal stand up I've ever like. Oh yeah.
And the bride particularly really, really likes him, like just like as a dude and as a public figure, and really appreciates him. Not
he
that I
married
don't, but like
his
does.
new wife is the Adventures of Natty Gale. That's who his new wife is. The girl.
I don't know what is it an actress?
Yeah, the old Disney movie.
Oh, okay.
Of Natty Gale with
I
John
think-
Cusack and the wolf.
Ooh, John Cusack. Right, Harvey Keitel.
No, an actual wolf. Like,
okay.
I think it's. No. What's your last one?
You
We're
call
gonna be
him
here
the
all
wolf?
fucking night.
All right. Well, the live comedy thing, we saw a bunch of live comedy starting with that. That was actually 2016. But in 2017, we saw Mark Maron, who happened to be recording his Netflix special in Minneapolis.
In your show,
in
Minneapolis, he was recording
the show that we
That's
saw.
awesome.
Yeah, he saw 2 shows that night.
That's
I haven't
fantastic.
watched it, but it was a good special, and I love his podcast. We also saw Michelle Wolf, Chris Hardwick, and Kevin Smith at the Acme Comedy Club in Minneapolis. I like comedy a lot. A lot of the podcasts I listen to are comedy based, but I haven't seen much live comedy, so we did a lot in this year. And
I
really
think I'm going to go
appreciated
do open mic stand up this year too. I think I need.
Holy fuck, that would be amazing!
I need to do it. somebody just at Christmas time was just like, you should be a stand-up comedian. And I'm like, if I had a nickel for every time somebody just randomly tells me that, I'd have a lot of fucking nickels. Like
nickel and knob. Fucking
nickel and knob, you know it.
That should be on the formal goals. I like that a lot.
All right, so stand up 2018.
And then the very last one is just generally JCVD in 2017. Because not only did he returned to some kind of public prominence with the Jean-Claude Van Johnson Amazon series, which I haven't quite finished yet. Actually, Brad and I are watching it together. It's like 6 episodes ultimately. And I was very happy to hear that Moto binged it with his buddy Shamrock. I was really happy to hear that they watched it together. That was so cool. And he said something that it was a little bit more than just satire, which I like that idea. And I will say about the show, like, it's super tongue-in-cheek, great use of JCVD, playing like different characters and really making fun of himself. But like, not a great show otherwise. So far, I have 2 more episodes to go, but like, he's so fun and great in it, and people seem to like it. Like, I saw a tweet from like the guy that plays Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, like, to him that he's watching it with his buddies and considering Jean-Claude in a whole new light. I just like that idea that people are happy about Jean-Claude Van Damme. And then also, of course, the training with VanDamme.com that I've been engaged in that he launched this year. So just generally JCVD.
I want to do that exercise regimen just so it's him leading it.
Honestly, seriously, it's not... you could do it. Like, it is really built for people like from in their teens to like their 80s. Like, anyone could jump in, and I'll do it. And like, I got the Fitbit now and stuff, and like, I won't get like even active minutes because you have to have like 10 at a time. I'm almost through the whole program of season 1 or whatever he's calling it. And sometimes it's, like, there are parts of it that are kind of hard, but it is super gradual and super approachable and just fucking hilarious because he says stuff like, I just did lesson 7.
The dye job on his hair.
The dye job,
just like, that's worth it alone right there.
Right.
Like,
we
right
talk
there.
about it. I introduced this and we watched a little bit of it and just the previous episode 37. But like in lesson 7 that I just did of this, at some point he's talking about why this is good because you can do it all in your home, like with just like chairs and a broom and stuff. You don't have to go to the gym. And so he's talking about how you don't have to go to the gym. And at some point he's like, oh, you have to park and all this. And he's like, pauses, like, beep, fuck it. And he moves on. And then like 5 minutes later, he's doing this thing with like squats between 2 chairs, kinda, or something. And he's like, down. And he's like, twa, twa, all of a sudden out of nowhere. It's just like these little moments that like beyond just like having, getting to exercise in a fun way and getting to hear him talk at you with his weird shit. And then every once in a while he's like, twa, twa, and then he'll laugh. He's talking to his other same lesson 7 is hilarious. He's like, I just sometimes I go around my house, and I'm like mixing him and Tommy Wiseau at this point, where he's like, basically talking about just like dancing to music in a half squat position. He's like, you can do it. It's fun. Anyhow, just glad people are talking about JCVD.
Yeah. No,
that's it. That's all my shit.
All right. So what do you think what do we want to do because on the YouTube channel, we could make 5 playlists where everybody gets a playlist for 2017, like each of our cast
I like
members,
it,
right?
Yeah.
So do we want it to just be like a playlist of YouTube stuff? So it could be music, it could be like funny videos, it could be trailers for movies. Like, is that how we want it to be?
Honestly, I think too, like what you and I just did in terms of what we mentioned of our favorite things that we either, that's a great jumping off point for us because, like you say, like we can find YouTube equivalents thereof, right, where, like for the Jean-Claude Van Damme thing, like you get the training and stuff. There's some videos that represent that. There's, so we can just, I think we start with those, and then, hopefully the other guys could submit theirs as well. Yeah, Double D's laughing at my Brontosaurus thing.
Fucking Double D.
I'm glad.
Well, like, I mean, because Moto already sent like his 5, but I think it's like his 5 top.
Oh, he did.
His top 5
did he
moments.
send it to you?
I got something. I haven't checked the YouTube links that he sent. I'm wondering if it's like the top 5 LWSD moments. You know what I mean? So that's where I thought there
okay.
was confusion. So I'll put together a form where it's just like movie trailers, music videos for songs, etc. Like, just give us like I don't know, just give us a collection of what you've liked from 2017. So that way we can say like all 5 of us have a top of 2017. You know what I mean?
And I think that would roll over nicely into the web presence and like, you know, people's individual pages or whatever. I like the idea that it is, because I even last year, it was like I thought we were more focused and like specific about things that came out in 2016 or whatever, but it wasn't. Like it was the same as this. We were just talking about like one of my favorites was the Obamas.
Yeah.
Like it was just like there were topics. and I was so glad to hear that like one of your favorites was the Roger Ebert documentary. Like you had just discovered it.
Man, that is
but
so
it had come
good.
out before.
Yeah.
So I like that too. I mean, it doesn't have to be so focused on the year, but I do like the idea of it being things that you encounter during the year. So it could be anything they want, really, I guess.
I'll get an email out to the boys and maybe get a form that they can just like drop YouTube URLs on. Give us like 10 to 15 good URLs so that we can call this like Twinkies top 2017 picks.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then we have all those.
Yeah, mine could be
on
Dave's
there.
Diggs 2017, Palmer's Pleasures 2017, that kind of stuff.
I'll put those playlists together, but I'll put them so that they go up on the YouTube page at the same time that the episode launches. This episode launches, so that way, like all of their like lists coincide with this episode. So
yeah, I like that. Yeah, well, the burp too.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you're listening and you're not one of the people we mentioned, it's always nice to hear what other people find exciting. You know, someone's recommendation is a lot better than, I don't know, how else do you find out about shit? So if you're our new listener today or a listener who's been silent for 38 episodes, but you're like, hey, you guys would really like this.
Yeah.
You can hit us up. You can email us by sending a message to lwsdpod@gmail.com.
Yep.
Of course, find us on Twitter at lwsdpod. Of course, on YouTube. You can reach out to us. What else? I think those are the main things.
You can search Long Walk Short Drink on all the major like podcast platforms. So iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music. You can search all of those. Which the Google Play Music, it takes months, I feel like, for those URLs to update. It's weird.
Really?
Yeah, weird.
That is weird.
So yeah.
Tell your friends, not for nothing, but it's lovely that it's such a tight knit community. But it wouldn't kill us to like have other listeners in 2018.
Absolutely.
I know. I think a lot of us are.
Drink.
I think a lot of us are pretty insular, and I'm kind of reticent to recommend it because it is often so intensely personal that it's awkward. Like I have coworkers, but I'm not gonna be like, hey,
look at this. So our new friend that we just met on YouTube, Isaac, who is our new subscriber, we got the notification as well that you subscribed. Thank you so much for that. But he got to us from your Nine Inch Nails unboxings.
Oh, really?
He was not watching Nine Inch Nails.
As if I didn't like this guy enough.
Yeah, like there we go. And then he got to us from that. So look at that.
Well, we have a lot in common already.
Viewers. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Isaac, for subscribing and joining. Look at that. I mean, how many YouTube channels they're going to call you out? You join their live stream. Like we're sitting here interacting.
Right.
Yeah. Like that's how desperate we are. No, I'm just kidding. Like seriously,
no, it's so nice to encounter such positivity.
Absolutely. Like we hope to continue to entertain you. Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you for letting me go on and on.
Oh, he loves Nine Inch Nails. We talked. What's the episode that we talked about Nine Inch Nails?
I get a little too drunk and talk all about Nine Inch Nails on episode 26.
26.
Yeah. So I mean, we talk about a lot of other shit too.
If
but
you're really a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, which Dave and Moto and I am too.
Yeah.
But Moto and Dave
and I are
hardcore Nine Inch Nails fans. I actually want to encourage them to start their own Nine Inch Nails.
He does, yeah.
Go back and listen to
remember that time
episode 26 because it is a great conversation.
Episode 33 too, we talk a bit more, or maybe I expound a little bit about some of those unboxing videos. I'm also Isaac, I think is the name, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have the same screen. I'm on Twitter. Both Palmer and I are on Twitter. Oh, you're not on Twitter.
Yeah, he said not on social stuff. Yeah.
Fuck that then. You don't need that.
I am. I do have a Google account at lwsd.palmer, and you have lwsd.dave.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So
you could connect with us on Google through those accounts as well. So
yes, sir. Please do.
Yeah, absolutely. But thanks for listening, and hope to see you at the next live event. Probably be in 2 Wednesdays from now.
We had Twinkie, Moto,
and
Steiner,
Double D came back.
And Double D.
He came back.
Oh my dear God! After Buddy Time.
Yeah, it's crazy,
You're
right?
the luckiest podcasters in the world. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. 2018 is going to be the fucking year, man. We got 2017 done. We're sealing that vault. We're not going back to that year. Like, it's gone. We're only looking forward now. So
I don't know. When I listened to our episode from the best of 2016, I was like, oh, I kind of want to hear some early LWSD episodes. Palmer's sealing it. I'm keeping the door cracked.
Yeah.
Just in case. That's my way.
Well, thanks so much for listening, everyone. And we will see you on the next episode. Long short drink.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Here's to 2018.
Awesome. All right.
Drink later.
Thanks again.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Long walk, short drink. Long walk, short drink. You've taken that long walk, no short drink. This was a long walk, fucking short drink. We'll get there eventually.
And you can go fuck yourself, go fuck yourself, fuck yourself, and you suck a dick like that.
Yes.
Like,